Warrior Lore. Chapter 763, A Sect Leader. Chapter 763, A Sect Leader. Proofreader. Papatonks. Humph. Xie Wuyue glared at Zhuo Fan with hatred. It never occurred to him that in Zhuo Fan's short 5 years stay at demon-scheming Sect, his foundation of centuries would be shaken up and he would be on the brink of being overthrown, looking at the labor office's elders wishing he was dragged down from his perch. Xie Wuyue's anger boiled with no outlet. No one was on his side. Venerable sure saw his state and was set on forsaking him. His only hope lay on High Venerable's support, so, after giving everyone present one last glare, Xie Wuyue stomped his way into the main hall. Steward Zhuo, High Venerable can't be after the leader in this, right? If anything happens to Sir, we'll be left helpless and weak. Giving the main hall a long look, Venerable Qi spoke. What if we send 20 experts along? At least this way we can cope with anything. Zhuo Fan remained silent and in thought. Venerable sure saw this and mocked. Zhuo Fan, you went and started an uprising, but you're too scared to talk with High Venerable? How is a cowardly rat worthy of being sect leader? Ha ha ha, Venerable sure. Spare me your goading. High Venerable is strong, but I'm no pushover. I'm not his match, but not even he can keep me from leaving. Grinning, Zhuo Fan chuckled and held Qingqing's hand. Are you scared, now that you're in danger because of me? What's so dangerous about seeing an old friend? Chu Qingqing raised an eyebrow. Zhuo Fan laughed. Ha ha, you're my lady indeed, braver than most men. Then let us go see High Venerable. No matter what side he's on, I'll always protect you. Chu Qingqing nodded and gave back a radiant smile. The two went into the main hall hand in hand. Steward Zhuo, are you really going without help? Venerable Qi was still unsettled. Zhuo Fan merely flicked his hand. Leave it. It won't make much of a difference, not with High Venerable's strength. They'll only get killed. It will actually have the opposite effect, inviting ridicule at the two of us bravery. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan laughed and then vanished inside the main hall. The crowd praised him for his decisiveness. Steward Zhuo and Lady Chu are a perfect couple. Both of them are so brave. High Venerable and Steward Zhuo had been close so far, but who could tell what High Venerable would do now that demon-scheming Sect's highest seat was on the line? He might follow the rules and stick with Xie Wuyue. Venerable Qi and Bai shared a look of worry. Venerable sure snickered and grinned. Bam! With a resounding noise, the main hall's doors shut tight. Holding Zhuo Fan, Xie Wuyue, and Chu Qingqing inside, everyone cried, Steward Zhuo. Elder Yuan's powerful voice echoed out before they did anything. Impermanence 5. Any that dares start anything, they are to be put down. Yes, sir. An aged voice came from the air. Then the green barrier glowed brighter. Shaken up, everyone sighed and stood still. They knew inside the vicissitude domain they were nothing more than lambs to the slaughter. Venerable Qi, Bai and sure, anyone in fact, had no choice but to sit tight and not stir anything up, but both sides had the same thought. High Venerable is as amazing as they say, no less than Xie Wuyue and Zhuo Fan. With just the 5 elders, he had the hundreds of experts tied up and at his whim. Meanwhile, the couple had just entered the main hall and jumped from the banging of the door. They didn't look back, though they saw 3 seats in the main hall. Xie Wuyue already took the highest one, with an ashen face and spiteful eyes. When he saw Zhuo Fan, his thirst for blood only grew at the side. They saw a shut door as the two walked to the seats. Before they got to take them, Elder Yuan's voice came from beyond the door. Zhuo Fan, you two come in first. The two nodded and entered the room, leaving Xie Wuyue alone to stew in his anger on his throne. His nails dug so deep in his palm that they left marks. Elder Yuan. Zhuo Fan saw him sitting cross-legged on a praying mat, and the couple cupped their hands. Elder Yuan smiled and nodded. Then he pointed at 2 mats. Please, sit. Zhuo Fan had no reservation, taking Chu Qingqing to the mats. Elder Yuan, why have you called us here? Is this miss your trial of love? Aren't you going to introduce her? Glossing over the question, Elder Yuan looked at Chu Qingqing. Getting up, Chu Qingqing spoke with respect as she greeted. I am Chu Qingqing, High Venerable. Haha, so you're Chu Qingqing. Elder Yuan's eyes flashed, sizing her up then nodding. He turned to Zhuo Fan. With both smarts and looks, Chu sure is attractive. Kid, if I was just 5 centuries young, I'd have underestimated you. Ugh. Zhuo Fan shook his head. Elder Yuan. There are hundreds of experts standing outside, with tens of thousands more waiting restlessly. Can't you be more serious? Ha ha ha. You knew war could spark at any second, yet you still brought back an army to revolt? Elder Yuan mocked. Fan shrugged. What was I supposed to do? I have to save my hide. You know how petty Xie Wuyue is. And even if he wasn't, any leader would not overlook such crass transgression. The only choice was for a preemptive strike. No matter what became of the demon scheming sect, as long as the two of us were safe was enough. Humph. A mistake remains a mistake unless you remedy it. Elder Yuan forced a smile. So you really don't care at all about the demon scheming sect. Is it fine to destroy it? You know what will happen if civil war breaks out. The heavy losses afterward won't be something sacred stones can patch up. Our very foundation will be ruined. Zhuo Fan was blunt. Don't care? Ugh. That went right to Elder Yuan's heart. But then he turned to her. Lady Chu, you're from a righteous sect. You shouldn't want total destruction to happen, do you? You know what your man is about to do, can't you? Don't care. Chu Qingqing shook her head, looking deeply at Zhuo Fan with a smile. It doesn't matter what he does as long as he's safe. Shaking all over, Elder Yuan chuckled. Lass, you're harming him, driving him further into the abyss. You two best be careful, regardless of being a righteous or demonic cultivator. Whoever gets swallowed by the pit of desire will have no chance of waking up. Coming back from such an ordeal is nigh impossible. Don't care. The both of them replied, yet they held each other's hands tighter. Elder Yuan's eyes shone. Then his face shifted, shouting, You don't? But I do care. Demon scheming sect is where I shall pass away. Just like Zhuo Fan cares for the Luo clan, the same is for me with the sect. No matter what, I can't let anything cruel happen to it. So, Elder Yuan's eyes were now sharp as he watched Zhuo Fan, planning an attack. Elder Yuan, Zhuo Fan and Chu Qingqing tensed, planning their own escape. Zhuo Fan's right eye was already shining golden. He had shift ready to activate at a moment's notice. Zhuo Fan, don't blame me for being unreasonable. Elder Yuan squinted and took out a pitch-black jade. Zhuo Fan cried out inside. He rushed to pull Chu Qingqing away from it. He had no clue what it was, but it had to be some deadly demonic treasure with high venerable's power and the demonic treasure. He must crush Zhuo Fan where he stood. Or if he fled, there was no chance of catching him sweating. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth, not expecting this old man to break their friendship like this. Taking out a demonic treasure to end him just like that, however. Seeing his panicky look, Elder Yuan looked dumbstruck. What are you doing? That's my line. You old coot. What are you taking a demonic treasure out for? Zhuo Fan shouted, his nerves stretched taut, glancing at the jade. Elder Yuan chuckled. Zhuo Fan, aren't you always daring? Why so paranoid all of a sudden? This isn't paranoia, but a matter of strength gap. With your strength, taking out a demonic treasure on top, if I don't hide, how am I to survive? Elder Yuan shook his head, holding the jade out. Zhuo Fan, look closer. This isn't a demonic treasure, but the seal of demon scheming sect's High Venerable. In my capacity as the High Venerable, I shall replace Xie Wuyue with you as the next sect leader. Chapter 764, True Self-Art. Chapter 764, True Self-Art. Proofreader, Papatonks. Come again? Taken aback, Zhuo Fan looked at him stunned. What did I just hear? You want to replace Xie Wuyue? What kind of High Venerable are you? In the sect's time of inner turmoil, you're not only not helping sect leader stop it, but even want to replace him. What do you think rules even are? That's rich, hearing about rules from you. Elder Yuan rolled his eyes, but then he found something off and raised an eyebrow. Zhuo Fan, what's going on? Weren't you planning an uprising? Why criticize me for not following the sect rules? You're the one who started this whole mess. Ugh. Zhuo Fan scratched his nose and nodded. True, but so what? My stance is clear, but Elder Yuan, as the sect's High Venerable, your standing made me doubt your intentions. Ha ha, I get it now. Elder Yuan laughed. Fine. Since you think that as a High Venerable I had to crush you, why then were you willing to meet me alone? Weren't you scared I'd take you out to end all the trouble? Zhuo Fan's face hardened. Elder Yuan, I did think about it, and even knew the chances were high for such an outcome. But I still wish to believe that our friendship meant something, and you'd have another way. What other way do you think I had? Go on, tell me. Elder Yuan's eyes shone. Zhuo Fan stared into Elder Yuan's eyes as he probed. With your status as High Venerable, you can just resolve the conflict by revealing everything. At worst, I'll be cast out, ending all trouble. In your dreams, Elder Yuan scoffed and shouted, Kid, you're truly despicable. Everything is because of you, and now you want to wipe your hands off of this? What about all the elders and venerables who have your back till death? Is this how you treat them? Zhuo Fan's heart sank and shook his head. I just knew something like this can't fool Elder Yuan. Pointing at the door, Elder Yuan said in a cold tone, if it weren't for this, they'd all carry their duty, working for the betterment of the sect. But you dragged them to a war with mystical heaven sect and sullied them. Hell, it's not a stretch to call them yours now. Then you stirred in them their rebellious side, saying they'll die otherwise and making them sink into their desires. Now that they have this thinking, you think it'll be that easy to get them to stand down with mere words? To top it all off, they plan on having their leader get power so they would get some as well. You saw how they reacted when Fiend Young tried to so hard to smooth things over. They're dead set on fighting, their hearts in turmoil. This is no longer a matter of Xia Wuyue and you coming to a peaceful resolution, but about that mob wanting to get everything they wished for, more power. They want to elevate themselves through your high position. You know this as well. I could step in and mediate it, stopping the fighting, but it will only delay things. First there's Xia Wuyue's pettiness who won't stand them for long, and then there's the labor office's elders and venerables who I bet can't sit still for even a couple of days before chaos ensues again. At that point you'd be thousands of miles away, leaving demon scheming Sect to kill itself on the inside. Was that your plan, Zhuo Fan? Zhuo Fan's heart sank, but did not reply. He turned to Chu Qingqing and sent her a message. Qingqing, how come he's such a relic yet not one bit like a senile old coot should be? He's trying to tie us down. Demon scheming Sect's High Venerable is impressive indeed, like the rumors paint him. But is it true? Did you know all about what he just said? Chu Qingqing nodded and raised an eyebrow as she sent her reply. Zhuo Fan nodded. Close enough. Every sect in Western lands is twisted and filled with secrets. I wanted to take you to a safe place to live our lives. I even tried using Fiend Yang's chance he created to get over this mess and just withdraw. How was I supposed to know Venerable Bai and the rest had a severe change of heart, dead set on wanting a coup and becoming the next ministers? Their desires were fanned even more with Xia Wuyue's anger. So you can imagine that when I leave the sect, Xia Wuyue and the labor office will be at odds, devolving into mutual annihilation like Elder Yuan said. That's the same as lighting the fuse and scampering off. Isn't that unethical? Why should I care? I only used them to save you. Now that you're safe, they can drown the place in blood for all I care as long as we're miles away. Brute, you're just too evil. Even after all they did to help you, glaring hard at Zhuo Fan, Chu Qingqing cursed him, but she was smiling as she said it. Elder Yuan sat there with a twitching mouth. Hello, I'm talking to you. So stop with the whispering. Have a little respect for an old man. Oh, Elder Yuan, but making me sect leader won't be against the rules? Besides, not everyone wants me on the chair. Won't a fight broke out either way? Zhuo Fan shook at Elder Yuan's words, then cupped his hands as he spoke. Elder Yuan gave a vague smile. This is where you're wrong. With you at the helm, there'll be no more fighting. First of all, more than half of the elders follow your every command. Becoming sect leader is what they want. As for Venerable, sure, ha ha ha, he's just a stubborn opportunist. He only cares for himself. He doesn't care who among the two of you is the sect leader, and would even less fight to the death for Xia Wuyue. The fact he wanted to bolt proved it. He just wants to save his strength. A guy like that in the sect would find the power of being a minister after they pushed you on your seat to be a good choice as well. Since you already beat Tianyu's imperial faction and brought peace to the nation, you're quite the expert in ruling. Elder Yuan, it's not about ruling here, but Qingqing and I. Zhuo Fan wanted to object, but Elder Yuan raised his hand to stop him. You caused this mess, you fix it. You crushed people's view of Xia Wuyue, forcing him to be confrontational and unable to maintain his position. Once you leave again, the demon scheming sect will be divided. You can't go. You're to blame for Xie Wuyue's eroded power, and now must take responsibility. Zhuo Fan sighed and nodded. As for the sect rules, ha ha ha. Weren't you asking me of my stance? I'll tell you. I am on demon scheming sect's bright future. Some stiff old rules mean nothing. As long as it favors the sect, any rule can be scratched out. Fraternizing is no exception. Elder Yuan looked hard at Zhuo Fan, then his eyes glimmered. Zhuo Fan? I know you don't care about the sect, not even about the labor office, but I just heard you call yourself demon scheming sect disciple, that the sect is your home. I know it was only an excuse, that you still can't wait to leave. But this old man hopes that the next time you say it, it will be from your heart. Shaking, Zhuo Fan spoke, I have never considered any place my home, unless it has people I care about. That's human nature. Elder Yuan chuckled and nodded. In any case, you can't escape becoming sect leader. You can go now. Zhuo Fan nodded and took Chu Qingqing out after bowing at Elder Yuan. The old man then stopped them before reaching the door. Wait. What is it, Elder Yuan? Zhuo Fan looked back. Elder Yuan's hand flashed and took out a jade slip. Throwing it to Zhuo Fan, Zhuo Fan looked puzzled. Elder Yuan sighed. This contains an art I came to discover after all my insights into the heart over the years. To someone like you who aspires towards Tao, it will be beneficial. True self-art? Elder Yuan nodded. Yes, the true self-art. A human comes from primal chaos, and being true, he never masked his emotions. But as the years came and went, this truth became blurry. However, cultivators, both demonic and righteous, all must return to Tao to find their true natures. But this new truth, does it form a cycle with the true nature from inception, or is it enlightenment? If it's a cycle, why then do cultivators train for years and years only to return to their true selves? I never managed to find an answer no matter how I looked. That's how I discovered this art. It's not an amazing cultivation method, but it can help a cultivator achieve peace of mind and remove a heart demon's interference. Remove a demon heart's interference? Zhuo Fan was shocked and sighed, gripping the jade slip with a shaking hand. Cultivators dreaded heart demons. The lightest halted one's progress while the serious ones were damning. With this art was a gem, able to avoid all of that. He never would have guessed Elder Yuan, a mortal domain cultivator, would have such deep insight. It went to show that one can achieve greatness regardless of what path they took. The old man isn't as strong as the ancient emperors, but a true wise man of life. Zhuo Fan held Elder Yuan in even more regard. You don't want to owe anyone anything. Elder Yuan laughed. You've already given me my gift, the 10th grade heaven-reaching pill. How can a measly 10th grade pill match master's art? It's enough. There are many a talent about, but rare are those to see them. Just how you know the value of this art, others will see it as junk. I'm content knowing you will cherish it. Elder Yuan chuckled and waved his hand. You may go and wait outside. Bowing once more, Zhuo Fan gave Elder Yuan a deep look, then pulled Chu Qingqing outside the room. Seeing the two leave, Elder Yuan smiled with tears welling in his eyes. He finally got to pass on his knowledge. Creak. In the main hall, Zhuo Fan and Chu Qingqing coming out were met with Xie Wuyue's burning gaze. Why did they come out alive? High Venerable did not use this chance to kill them. Wuyue, come in. Elder Yuan's voice resounded and Xie Wuyue stood up. He brushed past them, sending a glare at them before huffing as he went in. Elder Yuan, who was still sitting on his prayer mat, gestured, Sit. High Venerable, why didn't you kill them? As long as Zhuo Fan dies, the others will become a headless rabble, and with the inner sect faction, we'll crush them. Gnashing his teeth, Xie Wuyue's eyes saw red. Those damn geezers dared to stand with that lowly Zhuo Fan against me? They must have a death wish. Looking at his angry stance with a cold look, Elder Yuan's eyelids shook. Taking a deep breath, Wuyue. What? High Venerable, please tell me what we should do. Stand down. Elder Yuan spoke deeply, making Xie Wuyue shudder. What did you say? I'm telling you to stand down as a sect leader. Why? Xie Wuyue erupted, shooting to his feet. I'm the great sect leader of the demon scheming sect. I have worked for its betterment for centuries. Especially now, thanks to my thoughtful planning, the demon scheming sect has become a middle three sect, something never before achieved in thousands of years. Why the hell should I step down now? Zhuofan. He's the one who broke the sect rules. He and his band of criminals have started an uprising. Elder Yuan eyed him coldly. What do you want then? To kill? Xia Wuyue roared. These geezers wanted to overthrow me. They deserve death. You need to think about the consequences. What are you afraid of? With 10,000 sacred stones in 100 years, we'll get all the elders and venerables we need. Xia Wuyue showed a vicious smile. Elder Yuan sighed. Wuyue, do you know how much demon scheming sect would lose because of this? We can regain elders and venerables, but we will lose our thousands of years-old heritage. Every generation of elders and venerables were every sect's generation of masters raised from disciples, loyal to the sect more than anything else. This is something no amount of sacred stones raised elders can replace. Once tradition is broken, the sect itself will fall. Hi, Venerable, you're being paranoid. All that matters is that we have iron rules. It doesn't matter if they don't listen. Hey, haha, Wuyue, you're still like this? Seeing Xia Wuyue's crazed look, Elder Yuan shook his head. Do you know why Zhuofan managed to stir so many people into rising against you? It's because you are never sensible in your matters. You're self-centered and out of control. They fear you, and you think it's because of your status. But once you turn your back, they will come at you with a blade. Before Zhuofan struck Mystical Heaven Sect, the reason he was so sure these people would be with him in the uprising even after he told them of impersonating you, was because their fear of you runs deep in their hearts. This fear, in turn, became resentment and they lashed out. Since they die whether they came back or rebelling, why not fight to the last and take you down with them? Zhuofan knew this very well. That's why he faked your order to attack Mystical Heaven Sect. All that matters was that he tied everyone's fate together. Clenching his fist, Xia Wuyue gnashed his teeth. Curse that Zhuofan. He's been scheming against me. I shouldn't have let him leave. Wuyue, the people had turned your back on you. The moment is lost. Just let it go. Elder Yuan sighed. If I knew this day would come, you should have learned from Zhuofan's way of leading people. You should have known he has no feeling for the sect, much less for anyone in it. Even so, he manages to get everyone who follows him to believe in him. I believe he is far more suited than you to be a sect leader. Xia Wuyue's face twitched, having already lost himself to rage, having heard nothing and just curses. I've brought the wolf into my home. I let him undermine me. Wuyue, Elder Yuan shouted and sighed. You need to step down regardless. If you don't want to do it, then you give me no choice. I'll have to use my right as High Venerable and cripple you. That will only make it worse for you. Xia Wuyue shook, looking at Elder Yuan in disbelief. In no way, High Venerable. Are you going to cripple me over a brat? Elder Yuan closed his eyes, unable to hold back the tears. When he opened them again, he made up his mind as he stood. Sect leader Xia, come with me. I shall declare this to everyone and settle this now. Wait, you can't do this. You made me a sect leader. That was before. Elder Yuan halted with Zhuofan's uprising. Then your declaration of crippling the sect leader will make you look afraid of Zhuofan. What will the sect think of their greatest expert? Doesn't matter. What does my name amount to when the future of the sect is at stake? Elder Yuan's face hardened as he walked Xia Wuyue, stared at the old man and shouted, Master. Ugh. Faltering, Elder Yuan stopped again and closed his eyes. Chapter 766, Grand Wedding. Chapter 766, Grand Wedding. Proofreader, Papatonks. Wuyue. Taking a deep breath, Elder Yuan sighed. Ever since you took your seat as sect leader, I have not once heard you address me as master. Xia Wuyue's eyes shook, nodding, because master once said that the ruler of a sect drives the entire sect, wielding absolute power above anyone else's. I could only keep the word master in my heart and never utter it. After that day, the demon scheming sect only had sect leader Xian and High Venerable Yuan Xingong. Nothing more, nothing less. There's no other meaning to it. Do you still remember my teaching? Then you should know that when the bigger picture is involved, I don't make decisions based on feelings. Elder Yuan let out a long breath, then walked as he said, Step down, taking a leisure venerable office. Zhuofan won't go as far as kill for my sake. It's great that I also have the true self art I mentioned once, and can help you to understand it with the time you'll have. Being so high in status for so long, you've let your emotions control you. Stepping down and pondering on Tao might be the best thing for you. Xie Wuyue's face twitched. He clenched his fists and gnashed his teeth. Master, are you that heartless? Would you rather get an outsider on my seat than help me keep it? It's not a matter of wanting. It's that Providence made it so I can't. Humph, Providence. Xie Wuyue flicked his sleeve as he roared. You just think Zhuofan has those geezers under his thumb, and now you don't want to see the sect suffer. But have you ever thought that without rules there's only chaos? If demon scheming sect's sect leader can be taken so easily, what's the point of sect rules? How will the sect be ruled later? Won't it be a mess? Elder Yuan turned around to look into Xie Wuyue's crazed eyes and chuckled. Wuyue, you really need to step down. As far as we know, if you get public support, you can have the world. It doesn't matter if it's done by lying or stealing. The important thing is to understand it. Do you know why I was content with staying at the labor office for the past centuries? It wasn't just for peace of mind. It was because that was the closest place to true human nature, where the public's will was most obvious. You've been standing above everyone for too long. You've already gone blind to it. You need to step down and ponder on the true Tao. Humph. Ponder what? Tao what? Who doesn't know that in this world power is everything? What good will having Tao in your mind do to make me stronger? Nothing. Stomping, Xie Wuyue glared as he cursed. Hi, Venerable. You've been around those stinking laborers for too long and became weak. You're no longer the best expert in the demon scheming sect who held supreme power. Emir Zhuofan got a bunch of ninnies to take arms and already got you scared. Now you come to me to step down and learn some weird true self-art? Humph, Master, to be honest, I never gave a damn about that art. What other use is there to it than to look weaker? I am the great sect leader of the demon scheming sect. I need to show them all my strength and get their respect. I'm not like you, always with your nose down. Xie Wuyue's yelling shook Elder Yuan to the core. He was in pain as his withered white hair blew with every outburst from Xie Wu. Elder Yuan did not react. He was just extremely disappointed in his disciple he helped so many years. I now see I shouldn't have given the true self-art to you. You can't see its value and just throw it away like junk. Thank God there's still Zhuofan. Elder Yuan closed his eyes and turned around. As he opened them again, gone was the pain and sadness, replaced by resolve and force as he spoke. Let's go out together. I've already drawn out a reason for your stepping down. Elder Yuan stepped towards the door once more, with conviction. Master, you can't do this. I'm your only disciple. Bam! Elder Yuan shut the door as Xie Wuyue wailed behind him without remorse, leaving him all alone. Master, are you that heartless? Xie Wuyue's eyes shook and he closed them. He gnashed his teeth and dug his nails into his palms in anger. How the hell is that punk so much better than me that even my own master would forsake me? Letting out a long breath, Xie Wuyue's eyes shone with bloodlust. Meanwhile, Elder Yuan looked calm, but his heart was filled with pain and sorrow. His disciple who used to care so much about the sect, just like him, was now trapped in a deep whirlpool, offering the old man only disappointment and regret. Zhuofan stood up and bowed. Master, you're about to be sect leader. It's best if you call me High Venerable. In the demon scheming sect, status must be clearly defined in private and public, and not let emotion interfere with it. Elder Yuan chuckled, preaching as he did back then with Xie Wuyue. Zhuofan raised an eyebrow and said, Master is mistaken. Status must be upheld. But now I'm not fulfilling my duty as the sect leader. Since I see you as my master, before you is your disciple. And it's only natural for a disciple to show respect to his master. Startled, Elder Yuan gave him a long look, then sighed. I see it now. Private is private while public is public. When there was primal chaos, heaven and earth were one. But as the yin and yang separated, so did the two. That means private and public are interchangeable. How foolish of me. Pushing him towards power and not giving him any friendship had made him turn out like this. It's all my fault. Master, what do you mean? Zhuofan was stunned. Elder Yuan chuckled and shook his head. Nothing. I just have one request. Xia Wuyue would come out, and maybe he'll step down. For the safety of the sect, he mustn't get involved with more people. While a newly ascended emperor makes bold policies and snuffs out his remaining rivals, the demon-scheming sect is small and won't survive such a purge. Oh sure. Since Master asked, I of course won't deny High Venerable's suggestion. At worst, I'll just be thrown off my seat, and will have to just leave. I don't care much for it anyway. Ha ha ha. Zhua Fan nodded and laughed as he looked at Chu Qingqing. She nodded. Not minding it at all, Elder Yuan gave a heartfelt nod, but had a bitter smile inside. Zhua Fan said that he'll consider the demon-scheming sect as his home with me here, but in the end he doesn't see it like that, or else he wouldn't disregard being a sect leader so much. Just what can I do to make him see the sect as his home? I have to settle this, or the kid will just run off. Creak. A door opened and Xia Wuyue came out with a dark face. He still had a foul look when he saw Zhua Fan, but he was no longer crazed. Elder Yuan spoke. Well, have you decided? Yeah. Totally unwilling to do this, Xia Wuyue still gave a nod, letting out a deep breath. Elder Yuan ignored him as he spoke to the couple. You three follow me. It's time we settle this. Elder Yuan was the first to walk ahead. Zhua Fan, Chu Qingqing, and Xia Wuyue were right behind him. Rumble. With a heavy sound, the main hall's doors opened. The crowd outside quickly turned their heads around. Venerable Bai's side had been tense all this time. Would Steward Zhua get killed? How were they to carry out the uprising then? Fortune had it that they soon saw Zhua Fan and Chu Qingqing coming out and let out a relieved breath. The eyes turned to Elder Yuan, waiting for him to explain what had transpired inside. Knowing their desires, Elder Yuan coughed before shouting, Demon-scheming sect, listen up. In view of demon-scheming sect disciple, Zhua Fan's exceptional conduct and remarkable achievement at Double Dragon Gathering and fighting for our sect's honor, of the glorious win he had gotten by leading the sect's experts and defeating Mystical Heaven Sect, after thorough deliberating with the sect leader decided to step down, letting Zhua Fan take his place. Please look forward to the ceremony being held tomorrow. Come again? Everyone went slack-jawed. Venerable Sure and the Labor Office's oldies were all standing there incredulously at what they heard. High Venerable forced sect leader to step down so Zhua Fan would go up. With Xia Wuyue's vile temper, they could guess he would never accept this, unless High Venerable gave him no choice. They all looked at Elder Yuan in shock and puzzlement. They all knew the relationship between High Venerable and sect leader, but no one thought he'd side with Zhua Fan. Still, there was no attempt at crushing the uprising, nor stalling the situation. He helped them instead. This decision was beyond perplexing. Not even Venerable Sure could make sense of it. Wuyue. High Venerable looked at Xia Wuyue. Xia Wuyue gnashed his teeth and stepped forward. Forced to do this against his will, the sect leader is someone of ability. Zhua Fan's merits are unprecedented and I shall step down, offering my last meager help for the sect's bright future. Xia Wuyue said that last part like he was choking. It was utterly humiliating for a proud man like him to say that he was beneath a disciple. Elder Yuan chuckled and turned to the people. Tomorrow, the sect leader's succession ceremony shall take place along with one more happy event. We will hold for our brand new sect leader a grand wedding to celebrate the union between sect leader and his lady. Ugh! Everyone faltered. Chapter 767. Shifting Winds. Chapter 767. Shifting Winds. Proofreader. Papatonks. A wedding? The crowd looked at High Venerable in disbelief. Even the lucky couple was stunned at his declaration. The last they heard, demonic cultivators were supposed to be cruel and emotionless. So how did it turn into a public wedding? Marriage was a promise between a man and a woman, one of love. It wasn't the same as a fling. Was this really fine, breaking a thousands of years old rule? Even if it was done by the High Venerable and the next sect leader, High Venerable, sect leader stepping down for the good of the sect is an act of virtue, to be remembered through the ages. But for the new sect leader to break sect rules in such a grand fashion the very first day he took seat, Venerable Sure took it upon himself, as the defender of the demonic path, to be a buzzkill. Zhua Fan, you might have won, but don't get too cocky. You can't treat sect rules as nothing. What wedding? You're clearly dishonoring the demon-scheming sect. We can turn a blind eye to having a woman, so go have your fun. But now you want to make an issue out of it? This is a blatant disregard to all of us. At this time, Venerable Bai and the rest having Zhuo Fan's back should have stepped in, but even they found this to be a taboo. They were just stuck as to what to say, giving Venerable Shi a cold look. Elder Yuan said to Zhuo Fan, "See, these geezers are against your wedding and don't care who's the sect leader. I told you so." "You're right, but isn't this a bit too outrageous? This is about breaking a thousands of years old rule just as I take my seat. Look, even Venerable Bai isn't saying anything. We're still demonic cultivators. Don't tell me you don't want to hold a grand wedding with Miss Chu." Elder Yuan rose an eyebrow, turning to Chu Qingqing. Zhuo Fan had a bitter smile. "I'm a demonic cultivator and know it's taboos. While I might be an exception, I still can't break every demonic cultivator." "Not quite, Zhuo Fan. Don't you recall what I told you? The condition for a demonic cultivator to be in love?" "Of course I do. That is for advanced players, a stage they must overcome." Zhuo Fan rose an eyebrow. Elder Yuan nodded. "Yes, for those pursuing Tao, they can control love. I've always lamented how many in demon scheming sect had become obsessed while very few pursued Tao. Sect's rule is indeed there to protect our way of cultivation. But ever since you came, I discovered that with our constant talks, everyone must have their own path. The 4 scheming demons curbed their thirst for blood, Gu A who subdued his savagery. Elder after elder revealed their Tao heart. We are all products of our environment. I believe that with you as the sect leader, the demon scheming sect will become a true sect of the demonic path and not one filled with demons without substance. As our sect develops, desire is a step all cultivators must overcome. We can't have an ancient rule halt our sect's future, no? Ha ha ha. Elder Yuan is truly wise and broad-minded. Zhuo Fan's face twitched as he looked at him with cupped hands. Elder Yuan waved him off. Ha ha ha. I'm doing it all for the sect's growth. People without a path will find it harder and harder to grow the more they cultivate. This is, in the end, a daring bet. It's far too soon to tell just how many people will be able to overcome this trial. If a great deal of disciples die from their deep desires, I will be condemned in our history. But if it's the other way around, by overcoming this threshold, the demon scheming sect will be changed as a whole. Zhuo Fan nodded in admiration at his boldness, moreover. Elder Yuan turned to Zhuo Fan with a snicker. With demon scheming sect's grand wedding, you can finally belong to this place, ha ha ha. Startled, Zhuo Fan stood agape at Elder Yuan. He would not soon forget where he and Qingqing would be holding the wedding, that was for sure. With this, Elder Yuan is tying me to this place. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and shouted, "Everyone, from now on, demon scheming sect no longer forbids fraternization. My first order as your new sect leader is to abolish this rule." SSS. They all gasped in shock at Zhuo Fan's declaration. After a bit of smooth talking, an ancient rule for thousands of years was broken just like that. Any past sect leader that had done this received immediate refusal from all the elders and venerables. This was against their traditional values. How can you just break ancestors' rules? This time was one peculiar exception, though. The one to announce it was the High Venerable himself. Also, Venerable Bai's faction had Zhuo Fan's back. They had to agree even if they didn't want to. Why else would he want him as sect leader then? So, 2/3 of the elders gave a silent approval, leaving only Venerable Shi's faction to stammer. Lost for words, their position was the most awkward. Zhuo Fan's side had risen up while Venerable Shi's side followed the trend. They were still part of the old regime. Now that Xiaoyun stepped down and Zhuo Fan went up, it was the moment where every empire's court went through a thorough cleaning. The fact he usually was against Zhuo Fan was nothing, since he was a venerable and had 100 people behind him. In times of peace, massacres would only lead one astray from public support, endangering his seat. Now, though, in a time of insurrection, killing was at anyone's discretion. Who told you to go against us? As Zhuo Fan declared this at such a critical moment, he could not refuse it, or it would be used as an excuse to kill him. Since time immemorial, the greatest death toll was when a regime change happened. Some died in the chaos of war, while others because they opened their mouths in such a time. He could of course zip his lip. Venerable Shi, this kid is outrageous. He wants to break our ancestors' rule. Aren't you going to say anything? One elder was incensed and whispered to Venerable Sure. Venerable Sure glared at him and cursed in a low voice, "Shut it! Are you trying to get me killed?" Xia Wuyue and Zhuo Fan finally came to terms, and now he lacks the reason to clean his house. You want me to get his attention? It's better to stand down. The elder jerked back. Venerable Sure squinted. Then he gave an eerie smile. Zhuo Fan, bravo. Be cocky all you want. You're just deserts would come after offending so many people. Long live sect leader Zhuo. In this eerie silence, a sudden shout echoed that drew their attention. They looked back to see Kue Leng as he shouted. His son followed his example, then spreading throughout Zhuo Fan's side. The shouts got louder and longer. With no opposition, Zhuo Fan shook his head. It seems to me, only Kue Leng really means it. The rest are only copying him. Guess misery does love company. Ha ha ha. Dad, I heard some old coot is messing with you. Where's he at? A childish voice sounded, followed by Gu Santong's appearance. Luo clan was rushing over as well with hard looks. But then they found that there was no war going on here. As the crowd cheered instead, Elder Yuan did not mind their arrival and turned to Zhuo Fan. Are they the army you set up outside? Ha ha ha, you're really cautious. Feeling more than half of the sect's elders weren't enough and you called for backup. I bet you won't even need anyone else. Not when your freakish son alone can crush an entire sect, just like he did with Mystical Heaven Sect. Elder Yuan, you knew? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. Elder Yuan chuckled. Of course I knew. You think as a high venerable I'd be at ease knowing you'd take so many experts away? I saw it myself every move you made. That's why I never wanted to resort to violence. Because your son is too weird. I don't think I can take him. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan's brow shook and he laughed. He then called Luo Yunhai and Young Sanzi to him to ease their battle spirit as he explained. Finding out Zhuo Fan got high venerable support in becoming the sect leader, Luo Yunhai cheered that Zhuo Fan got through this mess without bloodshed. The sad part was that Zhuo Fan would remain in the demon scheming sect and couldn't return to the Luo clan. Not soon at least, but knowing Zhuo Fan was free to marry Chu Qingqing, everyone offered their blessings. Thus, on the second morning, under the eyes of demon scheming sect's elders, Xia Wuyue stepped down and handed over the seat to Zhuo Fan. While in the evening, it was Zhuo Fan's wedding on this day. The dark and cold demon scheming sect was brimming with lively music and cheers. None aware that this happiness would be followed by shifting winds, bringing crisis to Zhuo Fan's doorstep. Chapter 768. Chosen. Chapter 768. Chosen. Proofreader. Papatonks. Bam! At the festivities, all the guests were happily chatting like they were the ones getting married. Only one was drinking away his sorrows in a brooding mood. Xia Wuyue, after stepping down, he got one really boring office as venerable. Of the fearful elders he usually saw now, there was none sparing him a glance. Everyone was minding their business and enjoying the party. They all knew that there was no such thing as stepping down from sect leader in the demon scheming sect. A new sect leader would only be appointed when the old one was on his last breath, or when he got killed and a new one was elected. A nice way to put it was that Xia Wuyue stepped down, while a more crude way would be to say he was driven off his chair. Who the hell would pay attention to a morose dog? They all avoided him out of fear when status faded. So did the people. The lofty sect leader Xia was now the dislike of the public and no one wanted him. His age was over. Curse you, Zhuo Fan. I vow to get you for this. Just you wait. He yanked a pot of wine and started downing it in hatred. Just then, a familiar figure appeared. Seeing him so miserable, he shook his head. Wuyue, isn't it just a sect leader? What's so great about it? Being venerable is great as well. You've got so much freedom, Fatty Yang. Xia Wuyue squinted and put the pot down. He looked at Fiend Yang and mocked. Why are you here? Aren't you with Zhuo Fan? Go have your fun with all those disdaining me. Or have you come to ridicule me? Fiend Yang sighed. Wuyue, we've been brothers for centuries. The bond we made at the Double Dragon gathering is unbreakable. How can I help others harm you? But to be totally honest, your time is gone. Instead of trying to get the people on your side, you threaten them. Why else could Zhuo Fan take advantage and force you to stand down? Yesterday as well, I gave you the chance to settle this, but you wouldn't hear it. Zhuo Fan as well wanted to solve this problem, but you were still so stubborn. Who was it that didn't want a peaceful resolution in the end? It was Venerable Bai's side. Why? Because they feared you'd settle the score. You should think about this. Humph. My business has nothing to do with you. Xiaoyue snorted and took another gulp of wine actually, after he finally calmed down and thought about it. He knew Fiend Yang had offered him many chances to get away, but he was too angry to listen. Fiend Yang was a true brother. Instead of looking after himself and staying with the labor office's elders, he tried to help him. It was easy to imagine that Fiend Yang would be isolated now. But even so, he still chose to help when he was vulnerable. Xiaoyue was grateful for his help, but he just wouldn't admit it. The worst are Zhuofan and those from the labor office. I brought him to the sect. I helped him get those elders into the labor office to stand up to Venerable Shi's faction. Now that they got power, they came at me. Damn ingrates. Humph. Just like a true demonic cultivator, without an ounce of loyalty. Xiaoyue raved as he gulped down some more wine. Talking to Fiend Yang, while also venting. Fiend Yang shook his head and patted his shoulder. Brother, let it go. Your lucky High Venerable came to save you. Look around you, at the people at this wedding. The Luo clan aren't people to be messed with. Then there's that little monster. If you start fighting, no one can save you. Fiend Yang sighed and left helplessly. At another table, there were smiles all around. But when they saw him coming, they turned cold, as if blaming him for taking Xiaoyue's side yesterday. Fiend Yang was no longer seen as one of them. Xiaoyue's eyes shone with hatred. His hand clenched and crushed the wine pot. Sect leader, must you break the pot? Venerable Shi came over with 5 elders, sitting at his table with a sinister smile. After losing, only a coward takes his anger out on wine. Bam! Xiaoyue slammed the table as he glared. What do you want? You think you can just mock me now that I lost my seat? Don't forget you're not with Zhuofan. Wait till he solidifies his rule, and then he'll come to you. I bet you won't be as lucky as I was when that happens. Lucky? Ha ha ha. Stepping down was lucky for sect leader? I never knew sect leader's ambition amounts to so little. Xiaoyue gnashed his teeth and clenched his fists. Venerable Shi, if you run your mouth one more time, then you'll be sorry. What are you going to attack? Humph. Venerable Shi sneered. You didn't when you stepped down, and now, after you idled away, want to show off? Is that all you amount to? Venerable Shi. Xiaoyue. Xiaoyue shot to his feet, but before he struck, Venerable Shi grabbed his arm as he warned. Right now, more than half the sect is on Zhuofan's side. You need me if you want to stand up again. Or is that too hard for you to realize? Xiaoyue shook and squinted at him, hope glimmering in his eyes. Did you say? Do you have a way to get my seat back? Of course. It doesn't do any of us good with Zhuofan at the helm. Venerable Shi nodded. You're right. Half of the sect is on his side. He must be seeing my side as a thorn in his side, waiting to be removed. Our best option is to join forces. Xiaoyue calmed his heart and sat down. What's the point? I already lost, while your power will sooner or later end up swallowed up by Zhuofan. You think he's that easy to handle? Ha ha ha, I know that. Or how else would an outsider defeat both of us in just 5 years since coming here? Venerable Shi mocked and sent to Xiaoyue, sect leader, do you know why High Venerable did not care for you, his disciple, and settled on Zhuofan? Xiaoyue's face grew hard, feeling pain for his master abandoning him over an outsider. Am I so bad that he would want to ruin me? Whoosh! Venerable Shi showed a jade slip. Ha ha ha, take this and you'll have your answer. Xiaoyue was focusing on it for a few moments, then cried. This? Yes, these are the ones chosen to enter Double Dragon Manor. Venerable Shi's eyes shone. Zhuofan, Chu Qingqing, Shui Ruohua, Danner and other girls are there. High Venerable is playing a grand scheme. As you know, joining the Double Dragon Manor under the Exalted will advance hundreds of years in just a few years and would greatly promote the sect. If High Venerable won in suppressing Zhuofan's uprising, it was the same as losing Zhuofan and Chu Qingqing, the future experts of the sect. They're sure to have great power in the future, no less than High Venerable. So how could he let them slip away? While taking them in was different, greatly bolstering the sect. Zhuofan won't go alone to Double Dragon Manor, but following him will be the disciples he snatched from Mystical Heaven sect that were admitted as well. High Venerable must be tearing up from the joy. Humph. He loses his prized disciple's future, and earns 6 experts for the sect. This deal is clearly enticing. If I were High Venerable, I'd do the same. Venerable sure had a vague smile. But there's one problem, helping the uprising rise to power, affecting his name. Every expert pays great attention to this. I, for example, could not do it, but High Venerable is selfless, thinking only about the sect. He is a true man compared to us laymen. Xiaoyue tightened his grip on the jade slip. In other words, High Venerable cared more about Zhuo Fan and them than me. It's not because they were stronger? Of course, when did an expert like High Venerable lose in terms of power? They say that when Mystical Heaven Sect's 4 dragons killed one of our elders, High Venerable knew he was weaker and took Impermanence 5 to attack. Though they retreated, they still got to kill 5 elders of Mystical Heaven Sect under the 4 dragons' eyes and make them pay the price so that Mystical Heaven Sect won't slight us. Venerable sure sighed. That's how High Venerable is. The stronger the enemy, the more unbending he is. He only cares about the future of the sect. Xiaoyue's eyes shook as he spoke after a pause. Where did you get the list, Venerable Sure? A month ago, Double Dragon Manor sent the list to every sect. Sect leader did not receive it since High Venerable stepped in to take it. It seems High Venerable understands sect leader and your jealousy. That's why he never showed it. Ha ha ha. Xiaoyue spoke coldly. Double Dragon Manor gives the list to every sect leader, so how do you know of this? You have outside help. Will sect leader arrest me? Venerable Sure snickered. Xiaoyue smiled, his eyes shining. No, now I know how you'll help me. Fine, I agree. Ha ha ha. Chapter 769, Bridal Room. Chapter 769, Bridal Room. Proofreader, Papatonks. Wedding night, a time of bliss after a loud evening. Zhuo Fan, in a glamorous red robe and high footwear, entered the lavishly decorated bridal room. Before closing the door, he saw on the edge of the bridal bed a marvelous figure, waiting for him to take off her red veil. Grinning, Zhuo Fan was filled with joy as he slowly came forward and lifted the veil to see a beauty incredible to this world, of delicate features and even more mesmerizing than before. Even Zhuo Fan was struck speechless. Forgetting to take off the veil completely, what are you staring at? Chu Qingshang cast a faint gaze on his lost expression. She blushed and rolled her eyes at him, waking up with a start. Zhuo Fan beamed, taking off the veil and holding her hands as he got drunk on her beauty. Ha ha ha, I'm only appreciating my wife's unique features. Oh, there's no one in this whole wide world that can compare. I must have saved the world in some past life to deserve you. Zip it. What kind of demon saves the world? Destroying its peace is more like it. Chu Qingqing teased. Despite the happiness she felt scratching his head, Zhuo Fan nodded. True. How can I save the world? I bet that since I ruined the world at some point, heaven gave me you to tie me down and not sin again. Ha ha ha. Even heaven is scared of me, honey trapping me. What honey trap? When did I entice you? Why, you didn't want to seduce me. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow with a mischievous smile. Chu Qingqing glared, but turned her head away. Despite it all, her mouth formed a smile. Zhuo Fan snickered. Hee, since you won't tempt me, then I'll have to play rough. Zhuo Fan sprung on her, pinning Chu Qingqing to the bed. With a flick, he had the candles snuffed out, plunging the bridal room into darkness. Ah, how could you? Chu Qingqing cried out. Zhuo Fan grinned. Why can't I? You can't beat me anyway. You brute. That's me, a brute. I thought you knew that from day one. Zhuo Fan showed an evil grin. But now you're this brute's wife, getting pushed around every day. It's too late for regrets now. Ha ha ha. Suddenly Chu Qingqing whimpered from the flood of emotions. Zhuo Fan said nothing as well, only letting the odd bang and crash resound in the room outside the bridal room. Leng saw the lights were out and showed a pleased smile. Hee hee. Steward Zhuo is a beast even when it comes to his wedding night. My role model. A rotten one more like it. Han Xinying glared at him, then smiled. Leng scratched his head and looked at her. Darling, it's been so many years. Should we? Dad. Gang came over and broke their mood. The party is over. The elders and venerables have left. Ugh, that was damn tiring. Then go to bed. Your mom and I are going right now. Kue Leng rushed to say, but Kue Gang stuck out his chest and said, "How can I? We've just been reunited and I must do my duty as a good son. No matter what, I want to spend the night with Mom for all the years I missed." What a good child. Han Qinying rubbed his head. Kue Leng glared and gnashed his teeth. Get lost. You'll have plenty of time to make up for it. Tonight is mine. Dad is also doing his duty? Kue Gang's face twitched. Kue Leng was stumped. This kid is a demonic cultivator after all. What is it taking so long for him to grow up? Didn't he hear that absence makes the heart grow fonder? Moreover, I haven't seen your mom in 2 decades. Damn, brat, I told you to go. Don't talk back or I'll. Fine, fine, do your duty. I won't disturb you. Kue Gang jerked back and then he bowed to Han Qinying. Mother, I'll greet you tomorrow. Kue Gang then left puzzled and cursing inside. How can a husband do his duty to his wife? Won't a man get tired? Doing my duty to my mother, and then my wife, am I fated for a life of misery? Kue Gang shuddered inside. Han Qinying could not help but giggle at his clueless look and then glared at Kue Leng. Why are you so mean to a child? It's not my fault the kid is oblivious. Tonight you come with me alone. Kue Leng smiled and wiggled his eyebrows. Han Qinying blushed, and she left as she held his hand. While this side was filled with happy couples, there was one corner that looked desolate. Shui Ruohua, Yun Shuang, Yongning, and many other girls watched the lights go out in the bridal room with sadness in their hearts. Shuanger, do you think Shuo Fan will want us now that he has Sister Qingqing? Yongning asked, pondering for a bit. Shuanger shook her head. I don't know what he's thinking. But what does it matter? And hasn't Sister Qingqing said it? As long as he's fine, everything is meaningless. Yeah, Sister Qingqing is so committed. She finally got to enter this cruel man's heart. Maybe we should do the same, Yongning mused. Luo Yunhai shook his head. Princess Yongning, with your trickster heart, you'll never win Brother Zhui over. What trickster? Luo Yunhai, don't spout nonsense. My heart is pure. Yes, Princess is of pure heart, but just like my sister, you still have a desire to possess him. Luo Yunhai sighed as he gave a long look at the room. But Sister Qingqing has no such desire with Brother Zhua. I believe this was the reason he accepted her in the end. Shuddering, the girls looked at each other before looking down. Compared to Chu Qingqing, they were each selfish to some degree. Wanting Zhua Fan for themselves, Zhua Fan was a demonic expert, so he was cunning and sensitive to others' desires. He could read them like a book, and it was because of this he did not accept any of them, even though he knew their feelings for him were true. How will my sister take it? Luo Yunhai sighed and held his head. In the morning, a ray of sunlight peeked through the window and into the lavish bridal room. Zhua Fan opened his sleepy eyes. He moved his left hand only to find his side empty. Startled, Zhua Fan looked over to see the fairy no longer there. Looking ahead, he finally caught Chu Qingqing dressing. Her fair body looked incredibly beautiful through Zhua Fan's hazy eyes. Seeing Zhua Fan awake, Chu Qingqing smiled. The ever-cautious Steward Zhua slept like a log. Aren't you afraid of an ambush? That's what a night with you does to me. Zhua Fan chuckled and lay back on the bed. He stared at the plain ceiling and smiled. A woman is a hero's downfall. That's an apt description. Qingqing, taking you in my arms to sleep, I was brought back to the broken house in Drifting Flower City, of the tranquility I felt, and I didn't feel like going back to the tumultuous and chaotic world again. Chu Qingqing shook and smiled. At that time, we were only playing, while now, I am really your wife. That must be why my heart is at peace. Getting up, Zhua Fan came behind Chu Qingqing and hugged her. Qingqing, did you know? Ever since those couple of days in Drifting Flower City, I've always been yearning for it and feared it. Because I found that with you, my ambition to strive forward is being worn down. That's why I rejected you. But in the end, you still grabbed hold of me, and there's nothing that I want to do more than stay with you forever. Zhua Fan rested his head in Chu Qingqing's beautiful hair, whispering sweet nothings. Chu Qingqing felt ticklish, but her heart was bouncing in joy. I don't want to hold you back. All I want is to let you achieve your wish. There's no point now. All I want is for us to grow old together. Nothing else matters. He stuffed his head in her hair and, for the first time, let go of his pride. Qingqing, Elder Yuan was right. It's hard to overcome love. It seems I am trapped, and it's all your fault. You must take responsibility for me. Chapter 770. Another Journey. Chapter 770. Another Journey. Proofreader. Papatonks. Chu Qingqing giggled, then teased him. Why are you suddenly so clingy like a child? Yes, I'm a child, and I want to stick to you for as long as I live shit. However, Zhuo Fan didn't get to act spoiled as much as he wanted as he lifted his head from that fragrance hair, exclaiming, This is incredible. Chu Qingqing turned around and gave him a curious look. What is it, Zhuo Fan? What happened? I advanced to the 5th layer of Radiant stage. Yet I only slept. Zhuo Fan stood dumbstruck for a moment, then looked in shock at her. Qingqing, your empty spirit body is as amazing as they say. After just a night of dual cultivation, you helped me advance. Come, there's no time to waste. Let's do it again. Blushing, Chu Qingqing glared. In the middle of the day? People will laugh at us. Who will? We're doing an honorable thing, dual cultivation. Come on, I just can't wait anymore. We'll boost our strength while also tightening our marital bond. Ha ha ha, Zhuo Fan beamed, sitting on the bed with a nasty glimmer in his eyes. Chu Qingqing perked her mouth, faking resistance as she followed him. However, they didn't get to start as urgent knocking came from the door. Ahem, Sect leader Zhuo, as any other cultivator, you could dual cultivate how much you like. But you're our leader now. Doing it in broad daylight is setting a bad example. Elder Yuan? Zhuo Fan cried out, and Chu Qingqing blushed, knowing the old coot heard them. She glared at him and rushed to open the door. Chu Qingqing, with a red face, slightly bowed before Elder Yuan. Zhuo Fan looked annoyed. Master, I thought that since I'm a sect leader, I'm the boss here, so there can't be anyone stupid enough to listen in on my chambers. That's why I didn't set up a barrier. How is it a respectable old man as yourself have such a deviant hobby? Elder Yuan's face twitched and shook his head before he sat at the table. I don't have a twisted hobby. I just came to inform you that you have to set off. Set off? The two looked stunned, with Zhuo Fan asking, set off where? I just became the sect leader, and now I'm gonna leave? Elder Yuan smiled and revealed a jade slip. See for yourself. Congratulations, you two. After consulting with the elders and exalted of Double Dragon Manor, you have been chosen to enter Double Dragon Manor as disciples. This is a golden chance. In a couple of decades, when you come from Double Dragon Manor, things will be very different. You'll become a real power in Western lands. That will also be the time when Double Dragon Manor will become a real middle 3 sect. Elder Yuan's eyes flickered and Zhuo Fan quirked an eyebrow after scanning the jade slip. The names of all chosen are released together. Sword God Sects Wen Tao, Xie Tianshang, Hellion Flames Yenimo, Ultimate Clarity Sects Yi Lin and Wu Qingqiu are all here. Haha, of course. Elder Yuan chuckled. You met all of them at the Double Dragon Gathering. After 20 years or so, you'll constantly be in touch. You'll now just get ready for it. No matter what grudges you formed in the Double Dragon Gathering, you'll be cultivating together now and smooth things over. This must be Double Dragon Manor's plan. Throwing the jade slip on the table, Zhuo Fan shook his head. That Yi Lin is savage and you expect me to play nice with him for decades? Humph. I've heard about him and he's almost as bad as you, so you don't have to avoid him. You two are practically made of the same cloth. Elder Yuan chuckled and stood up. Well, get ready for your journey. Shui Ruohua and the others are waiting for you. So soon? Zhuo Fan started. Elder Yuan teased. I know you're newlyweds and are very lively, but this jade slip has been with me for a long time already. Other sects must have sent their disciples by now. You need to go now if you want to keep up. You can just get physical all you want in the Double Dragon Manor anyway. Ugh. Chu Qingqing blushed and lowered her head. Zhuo Fan was stumped. I never knew this old coot was so lewd. He just keeps being blunt about our marital privilege. The two got ready and followed Elder Yuan outside the sect barrier. Demon scheming sects elders were already waiting to send them off with the Luo clan. Zhuo Fan's group came out and Venerable Qi and Bai stepped up, cupping their hands and bowing. Sect leader, don't worry. While sect leader is cultivating in the Double Dragon Manor, we and High Venerable will handle everything. What handling it with High Venerable? You're clearly making yourself the second venerable. I haven't promoted you yet, and you guys are so thoughtful you kicked Venerable Sure off his chair to take his place. You guys sure are ambitious. No matter, not when you're on my side. It's not like I have any other candidate to be the second venerable. Zhuofan smiled and patted their shoulder with a nod. I'll leave it to you. But if anything bad happens, you are to follow High Venerable's every order. Yes, sir. The two's hearts jumped. Zhuofan gave all the power to High Venerable, warning us to curb our greed. Knowing Zhua and High Venerable were so close, the two were relieved. Elder Yuan spoke. Zhuofan, you're now the sect leader of Double Dragon Manor, not like other disciples. After you reach the Double Dragon Manor, you must greet the Exalted as one. I figure Double Dragon Manor will treat you like one as well. You must not be like before, lacking mannerism. I got it, High Venerable. Zhuofan nodded. Elder Yuan smiled with a ripple. The sect barrier closed and Zhuofan with the Luo clan set off, leaving the sect's elders to return to their matters. Only High Venerable remained for longer, muttering, I hope the Exalted will notice the situation and understand our intention without making it too hard on us. High Venerable, the Exalted were specifically after Zhuofan and the others when they sent that jade slip. What do we do? Did we offend the two Exalted? Elder Shi of the Impermanence 5 appeared behind Elder Yuan's side and took out another jade slip. This is what the Exalted sent to me alone, hoping to train Zhuofan, such a marvelous talent, and take him from us. Since they care for Zhuofan, how could we not as well? I had worked fast in getting Zhuofan's new status, so the leaders of the Western lands should not be as forceful in taking our sect leader. I hope that by acting like a sect leader before the Exalted, they would understand my intent and let this go. If they wanted to take him, there's nothing I could do to stop them. Ha ha ha, don't worry, High Venerable. Exalted double dragons care about their reputation and won't be so forceful. How could they lead Western lands otherwise? Elder Shi consoled. Now that Zhuofan is our sect leader, no matter how much they want him, they can't do anything about it. High Venerable's move was brilliant. Elder Yuan smiled. Ha ha ha, you don't have to praise me. I had no other choice. Or when Zhuofan took the men to attack Mystical Heaven Sect, I just had to use my name as High Venerable and it would have nulled the token he used to force them. It would have cut his uprising and his rise short. But in the end, Wu Yue became a sacrifice to keep Zhuofan here. I had no choice but to make him step down. High Venerable shook his head, his eyes flashing. Everything had been going according to High Venerable's plan. It wasn't circumstances that forced him to get Xie Wu Yue to step down. It was what he chose. I wonder what they would say if Xie Wu Yue and Zhuofan knew this. I ended up making use of these shrewd youngsters, all for the future of the sect. Send a jade slip. The hare is out of the burrow. It's time to strike. Xie Wu Yue stood on a far mountain overlooking everything. Seeing Elder Yuan's bent back as he returned to the sect, he sighed, Master, since you forsook me, you only have yourself to blame. Venerable Sure mocked, Sect leader, a great man must be ruthless. Since you want to get back your seat, then stop playing the victim. It's too fake. This was your idea after all. No one's forcing you to fight your master. Yes, no one forced me. It's me who's forcing myself. Xie Wu Yue's eyes shone and gnashed his teeth with resolve. I need to get everything I had back and I'll kill anyone that stands in my way. Chapter 771. Leng Wuchang's Worry. Chapter 771. Leng Wuchang's Worry. Proofreader. Papatonks. Brother Zhua, we'll see separate here. When you have time, you must come to the Luo clan. Mom, Dad, I have to go as well. When you're in trouble and want to have a row, don't forget about young Sanzi. After leaving the demon scheming sect, the groups parted. Luo Yunhai took his clansmen back home, taking Yongning and Shuanger with him. Young Sanzi wanted to go back to the All-Beast Mountain Range. Zhuofan and his contingent of girls had to go to Double Dragon Manor. Although Zhuofan disdained this, he had to do his duty as the new sect leader. For a long time following, Demon Scheming Sect would depend on Double Dragon Manor. He had to give his respects, cupping his hands. Zhuofan put on a hard face. Thank you everyone for all you've done. We'll surely meet again. We will, Steward Zhua. Li Jingtian, Xiao Yunhai and the men from Luo clan replied in kind, then flew away with Luo Yunhai and the lead Shuanger and Yongning were filled with unwillingness. But then they saw Chu Qingqing and left as well since Zhuo Fan was glued to Sister Qingqing. The girls had no chance whatsoever, just like Sister Qingqing said. All that mattered was that he was fine seeing them leave. Zhuo Fan's heart turned morose. He might have been a demonic emperor, but death was death, taking everything his past life meant with it, while now, as a mere mortal domain cultivator, he had so much. Zhuo Fan looked above and smiled. Chu Qingcheng was touched as well as she smiled in return at this moment. The two were in utter peace and content. A month later, Luo Yunhai took the experts back to Luo clan, at Blackwind Mountain. Only while they had gone in full force. Now they came back with heavy losses. A third of the men had died and the rest were heavily wounded. Seeing this, the nervous higher-ups of the Luo alliance were shocked after they heard Luo Yunhai acted on his own as an elder of the alliance. Grandmother stood up. Luo clan head, what has happened? You took all the power of the Luo alliance and now you came with such heavy casualties? Yeah, you have to give us an explanation. We have staked all our houses into Luo alliance. Even as an alliance leader, you can't just take everyone to a mortal battle. Xie Xiaofeng was also scolding. Long Yifi was quite calm, but seeing his wet brow, it was clear he was nervous inside. Only after seeing the defeated army back did he relax. Let's all calm down. The Luo alliance has grown much these years, spreading through the dozens of small kingdoms around us. Our power is constantly growing, all under Luo clan's leadership. We can't just crucify Luo clan head for his first oversight. At the very least, it wasn't a crushing defeat. It's far better than how we ended up. Pavilion Lord Long, thank you. No wonder you're the first house we struck an alliance with. You have so much trust in us. Haha. Luo Yunhai thanked him. Long Yifi twirled his mustache. Luo clan head is too kind. But shouldn't Sir explain why you went out with full force without giving us any word? The others also nodded, their eyes boring into Luo Yunhai. Sorry, it was all so sudden and had no time to consult. I went out because Luo Yunhai took a deep breath and began retelling all that happened. The others now understood, but even so, a snort came, going so far for an old steward, putting Luo alliance in danger. Do you take all our house's interests as childish? When we, the Li clan, joined the Luo alliance, we didn't know it was so naive. The eyes of everyone focused on an arrogant man with a long beard. Clan Headley, your clan might be known in the Wreathed Mountains Kingdom, but you are far from having the right to run your mouth in Luo alliance. Long Yifi glared. A backwater clan in a tiny nation sure is blind. What did you say? The man roared. Long Yifi, the Luo alliance has been around for only 5 years. You may be much more qualified than me in it, but you're not that much better than us new clans who joined. There's also our own force that joined Luo Alliance's military. You're telling me we have no right to know when Alliance leader uses them for his own selfish reasons? Long Yifi spoke coldly. That is not what we're saying. But what Alliance leader had done was rightfully so. Rightfully? For an old servant? Yes, for the previous steward. No matter how much it cost Luo Alliance, it will all be worth it. Long Yifi mocked. A clan from a tiny nation has no inkling of true talent. Zhuofan is worth everything we have. Did you know that the Luo Alliance, including Tianyu Empire's entire power, was all taken by him? Without him, there wouldn't be the prestigious Luo Alliance of today. Once, I signed an alliance with him, and now I became the first elder of Luo Alliance, overseeing trading with dozens of nations. And now that he needed our help, we'd be giving it. Because paying him back is only right. Moreover, didn't you hear? He's the demon-scheming Sect leader. Later, with the support from a sect of the Western lands, the Luo Alliance's expansion will only increase. Did you think about that? Ugh. The man's heart sank and grumbled. But then he said, this time subdued, but it's too dangerous. What if he failed? Wouldn't we lose everything? That's impossible. Long Yifi mocked as he spoke with utter confidence. That kid is very shrewd. Since he does it, that means it's certain of success. I understand him too well, haha. The man fell silent at his laughter, however. Luo Yunhai shouted, looking solemn, Pavilion Lord Long, you might have come from a merchant's house, but forgive me for having to stop you there. Ugh. Luo Yunhai looked at him curiously. Luo clan follows loyalty and righteousness. Luo alliance will be no different. Every one of you that entered the Luo alliance is treated as my clansman. When you meet with danger, I'll brave anything to help you. Looking hard at everyone in the room, Luo Yunhai continued, Today, I led Luo alliance's forces to help Brother Zhua, not for the chance of being paid back, but because he's my brother, the man who saved our clan and established Luo alliance. Without him, there would be no us. Must we bicker over pennies even with fellow clansmen? Even if he failed today, the Luo alliance would still support him, despite the losses. This is the loyalty of the Luo alliance. If any of you find themselves in conflict with our way, only looking at numbers, you're free to leave. I won't force you. Luo Yunhai flicked his sleeve as he left, leaving the elders looking at each other with shame. Is he the same young clan head Zhua Fan brought up? That punk would fight tooth and nail for every coin. While the young clan head, Haha Zhua Fan, you left so much room for the Luo clan to grow. The elders beamed watching Luo Yunhai go. Nothing in this world can be better than meeting such a loyal boss. Back to Luo clan's hall, Luo Yunhai did not get to take his seat as Luo Yunchang rushed over, yelling, Yunhai, did you take everyone out to fight? Do you know those alliance elders wanted to bring our entire clan down? Sister, it's fine. The damage isn't big. Luo Yunhai explained with a bright smile. Then, laughter came from outside. Ha ha ha, young miss. For clan had to go all out regardless of consequences. He had to have done it for one man only. The two turned around to see an old man walking over. Unwanted contriver Leng Wuchang Sirlong. You mean Luo Yunchang recalled something and Leng Wuchang nodded. Luo Yunchang turned to Luo Yunhai. Is what Sirlong said true? Why you saw him? Luo Yunhai shrugged and sighed as he explained. Luo Yunchang's mood sank. I see. He and Edifice Lord Chu. She then left with red eyes. Luo Yunhai wanted to comfort her, but Leng Wuchang stopped him. Clan head. Young miss wants to be alone. Let her go. I, however, am more worried about Steward Zhua. Sirlong, what do you mean? Luo Yunhai asked hastily. Leng Wuchang sighed. A woman is a hero's downfall. Steward Zhua and Edifice Lord Chu getting married is a good thing, but it also made him soft. Before Xiaoyue and Sect leader Xian are removed, they would put him in the worst disaster, one that might even get him killed. I'm sure Steward Zhua is aware of this, but with his heart solely focused on Edifice Lord Chu, he would rather take the risk. Luo Yunhai's eyes widened, and his brow shook. Chapter 772. Soul Harmony Expert Ambush. Chapter 772. Soul Harmony Expert Ambush. Proofreader. Papatonks. Whoosh. For figures landed before a noisy town, Zhua Fan, Chu Qingqing, Shui Ruahua, and Danner in a month. The four had made most of their journey to Double Dragon Manor. All we had to see so far was mostly wilderness. A bustling town like this is most welcome. We can finally rest. How about we stay for a day? Zhua Fan suggested. The girls nodded with a smile. Danner threw a coy smile at Zhua Fan. Brother Zhua, it must have been so hard always staying in the wild. Now you'll have time to catch up with Sister Qingqing tonight. Wretched girl, say that again. Chu Qingqing blushed and glared at her. Zhua Fan merely touched her arm and laughed. Ha ha, Danner. You understand us so well? Since you know my plan, we'll each mind our own. Why, you're just as bad as her. Chu Qingqing turned her red cheeks to glare at him. Zhua Fan snickered. Walking forward, come, let's find an inn first. Seeing his quick step, the girls giggled. After getting married, Zhua Fan is like another person. At least he's not as cold as ice. Shui Ruahua spoke. Chu Qingqing nodded. Looking at him so lively and carefree is all I wanted. Just that. Is this what he wanted? Regardless of what he wanted before, now he only wants you. Don't think about it too much. Shui Ruahua patted her shoulder. Danner came over giggling. Yeah, he's so much better now. No longer crude and rude. They say a woman changes a man. You're so amazing, Sister Qingqing. Chu Qingqing shook her head and sighed. But as she saw Zhua Fan so happy, the weight on her heart slowly lifted. She wondered if her presence could wear down this man's ambition. But seeing him so cheerful now, what did it matter? Qingqing, let's rest here. Zhua Fan stopped before a tavern and gave the girls a bright smile. Chu Qingqing sighed, feeling with joy as she nodded. The girls followed him and taking a table. A waiter was right there to take their order. He soon came with the tea as the other tables were noisy despite the clamor. Shuofan looked at Chu Qingqing's delicate features and closed his eyes in peace. This is the life of the common people. It's so much easier than those days of fighting and killing to survive. Oh, Sister Qingqing, since we're going to Double Dragon Manor, are we from Mystical Heaven Sect or Demon Scheming Sect? It should be the Demon Scheming Sect, since we betrayed the Mystical Heaven Sect, and they must have cast us out. Danner cried out, and Shui Ruohua answered first with a bitter smile. Danner did not understand. But we're righteous cultivators. Won't we turn demonic like this? We've never trained in any demonic cultivation methods. Silly, we've stopped being righteous since we betrayed our sect. Even if we don't become demonic, we're still demonic cultivators. That's too random. You think? That's the righteous path, not allowing the slightest breach in rules, or you'll be judged. Danner and Shui Ruohua chattered on about what side they were on now. Shuofan closed his eyes and sipped his tea with a smile. Righteous and demonic. Who in this world can truly set them apart? What was righteous? What was demonic? Nothing more than biased notions people decided on themselves. Elder Yuan is right after all. Righteous and demonic are paths leading towards Tao. Ha ha ha. Only a fool will argue about making a distinction, sinking into this pit and straying from Tao. Fools, utter idiots. 9 serenities. Suddenly, Shuofan furrowed his brow, hearing a voice calling out 9 serenities. He found that he couldn't even open his eyes and felt utterly powerless. He could only cry, "You know about the 9 serenities, Emperor? 9 serenities, we've been waiting for you. You must come back. You must attain Tao and return." Who's there? Shuofan flashed his eyes open. His brow soaked as he looked around in panic. The girls looked at him in worry. Shuofan, what's wrong? What's wrong? Shuofan frowned, filled with doubt. All he felt was the strong beating of his heart feeling his chest. Shuofan felt it sink, as if a weight had been placed on it, wiping his brow. Chu Qingqing muttered, "Shuofan, you were asleep. We've been calling you to wake up, but you've been out for an hour." "I've been asleep for an hour?" Startled, Shuofan was shocked. With his nature, there was no way he'd fall asleep so deeply. That's like handing my life on a silver platter. He then recalled the voice and felt as if it brought him to another place. This had to be why he didn't wake up. Danner gave him a hard look and grinned. "Brother Shua, you've been so tense lately. Frustrated, maybe?" Rolling his eyes, Shuofan wanted to glue this last mouth shut. "As strong as I am alive, nothing can affect me. Moreover, this brat only knows how to learn bad words." Chu Qingqing was agape, glaring at her with a red face. Shui Ruohua gripped hard on her shoulder and spoke in anger. "Girl, who taught you to say that? Hold it." However, Shuofan cut her cursing short, and he shouted. Danner lit up and teased, "You're really frustrated? Shut it." Shuofan glared at her and muttered, "Haven't you noticed that the town became quiet?" The girls looked around and found the entire place empty. Not even the owner or the waiter was here. Gone was the bustle from outside. People no longer walked the street. The eerie breeze lifting the dust from the deserted street gave it a dark tone. Chu Qingqing frowned and tensed. The town is suddenly empty, just like that time with Yinamo. "What, Yinamo again?" the other girls cried. Shuofan shook his head, his heart sinking. "I fear this is worse. Yinamo struck at night, and we met by chance. But this is broad daylight when all vanished. This shows this was a damn trap." As he finished, a fierce gale blew and a heavy pressure slammed into them. Crack. The inn began to disintegrate, with sawdust slowly falling to the floor. Shuofan panicked and rushed the girls outside. "Be careful." Rumble. A loud noise echoed and the entire inn was razed to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust as it formed a tornado. Once the dust scattered, they saw 100 meters wide palm imprint into the ground where the inn was. Above it was an old man with silver hair, looking down with cold eyes. "Humph, you're not the winner of Double Dragon Gathering for nothing. Most outstanding young demonic cultivator of the generation. You managed to sense my palm and dodged. Who are you? Why are you after me?" Shuofan pulled the girls to their feet, his heart racing. From that palm, He could tell the old man was stronger than an ethereal stage expert. He was in the soul harmony stage. This was an expert no lower 3 sect could send out. It made his heart sink. Laying such a huge trap, there's no way he is alone. Does that mean there's no escape? Zhuofan clenched his fists as his mind raced to find a way out. Ha ha, Zhuofan, we meet again. Only this time. A vile spawn like you won't escape again. A very familiar cawing was heard Zhuofan sighed inside. He never thought that his biggest worry would come find him. Chapter 773, Life and Death. Chapter 773, Life and Death. Proofreader, Papatonks. Universal Righteous Sect, Zhao Dezhu. Zhuofan squinted at the loathsome face. The girls were stunned. They never thought the one to come after them would be the last of the superior 3 sects. Universal Righteous Sect? No wonder they sent a soul harmony expert. A superior 3 sect sure had the power. Strutting over, with dozens of strong ethereal stage experts behind, Zhao Dezhu sneered. Well, Zhuofan, you didn't see this one coming, did you? Yes, it was truly unexpected. Zhuofan was solemn. I know I stepped on many toes, but I never thought I'd be meeting you. Based on hatred, mystical heaven, Sect hates me the most, but I crushed it. The next would be Venerable, sure, but with High Venerable around, they can't move as they want to set an ambush for me. Third would be Heaven Trailing Sect, but since they're the last middle 3 sect, I had my ways to cope with them. But out of all of many others, Universal Righteous Sect was the last I thought would come. Ha ha ha. Taking it logically, our setting off and paths were set. You and my sect are quite far too, hardly communicating. So how did you know about our path so clearly? Either you had it prepared from the start to ambush me, or there's someone in the demon scheming sect feeding you info. But my falling out with the old coots is fairly recent. So when did you make contact? Frowning, Zhuofan pondered. Then he chuckled. Right. The Double Dragon Gathering, Lucia, and Venerable, sure. You got in touch then. Zhao Dezhu's heart sank, looking hard at Zhuofan and laughing. Ha ha ha. They all say you're shrewd and a thorn in the side. Now I know for sure. If a demon like you isn't purged now, you'll soon cause havoc in the world. Today, my Universal Righteous Sect will vanquish demons for the good of humanity. Sigh, what a blunder. Facepalming, Zhuofan ignored Zhao Dezhu's bragging inside. I didn't much care about the demon scheming sect at first. It was not the Luo clan who was built step by step anyway. So many problems were ignored. I thought I would go back to the Luo clan after the job was done and not get involved in its politics. But who knew that would come back to bite me? Shaking his head, Zhuofan pointed at the girls and spoke in a hard tone. Brother, you want to purge demons, that's fine. But leave the righteous cultivators out of this. Chu Qingqing tightened her hold on Zhuofan's hand as she shook her head. Shui Ruohua and Danner were firm in staying as well. But Zhuofan didn't look at them. Only at Zhao Dezhu. Humph. Being around a demon like you, no one is innocent. They're all taken in by the demonic way. They all must die. Whoosh. Zhao Dezhu raved, but was cut short as something came at him. He felt death looming and slanted his head in reflex whoosh. The attack passed his face and sent a cold shiver down his spine. Then he heard the cries from behind. 5 ethereal stage experts were headless, falling to the ground. Then their souls came out and shouted their anger at losing their bodies. Divine Eye of the Void's second stage, Void Annihilation. Zhuofan. Zhao Dezhu roared. He didn't think Zhuofan would be so savage, striking without a signal and killing 5 of his brothers. He almost died as well as he turned around to Zhuofan. He found Zhuofan had grabbed Chu Qingqing's hand. As they all fled, it was blatant disregard. Zhao Dezhu was fuming mad. Men, start the array. Yes, sir. A ripple crossed the entire space and like a net, sealed the town. At the edge of it, Zhuofan could see 500 ethereal stage experts sitting cross-legged and holding the barrier. Shui Ruohua's brow shook as she cried. 500 ethereal stage experts. Only someone like the Universal Righteous Sect can unleash such a force. This is like a lower 3 sect's entire power. Humph. That's why I said meeting the Universal Righteous Sect is the worst. Besides the sect guardians that never leave home, they could send any kind of force and could easily crush a lower 3 sect. We 4 are now facing such a destructive power. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth, sweat gathering on his forehead. Danner was afraid. Brother Zhuo, what do we do? Don't worry, with me here, you'll be safe. Zhuo Fan revealed a smile as two golden halos appeared in his right eye. Divine Eye of the Void second stage, Void Annihilation. A ripple shot out that slammed into the barrier and punched a hole in it. Blood spurted out as dozens of ethereal stage experts paled instantly from the heavy backlash. Zhuo Fan just then arrived before the barrier. He saw the hole in it and flicked his right hand, punching as it oozed a brutal red color. Boom. In that instant, Qilan Arm's power was unleashed, cracking the barrier. With a loud explosion, he made a gap in it and forced dozens of more ethereal stage experts to puke blood and collapse. The others maintaining the array were shaking like leaves, but the signs they made were firm as shame. It was of no use. Zhuo Fan had breached a path for them to escape. Run? Pulling Chu Qingcheng, Zhuo Fan shouted. The four rushed through the gap and flew away. Zhao Dazhu stomped in anger. Curses, this prick has a skill to break arrays. The barrier is useless on him. You damn fools. He escaped, so what are you holding it up for? Get it down and chase after them. The men finally reacted and took down the barrier to give chase. Almost 500 ethereal stage experts went after only 4 people. Their mighty auras felt like that of a tsunami. Brother Zhuo, they're almost caught up. What do we do? Danner saw the savage energy behind and panicked. Zhuo Fan was solemn. Keep running and don't look back. Don't falter or it's over. This is life or death. Yes. Danner shook in fright, but then recovered as she focused on flying. Chu Qingcheng was also solemn, grabbing Danner with one hand and Zhuo Fan with the other as she rushed forward, but then she noticed one hand was empty. Zhuo Fan was not there. Chu Qingcheng looked back to see Zhuo Fan stopping. Zhuo Fan? Chu Qingcheng cried out. Zhuo Fan shouted before she stopped, don't look back and just run. Qingcheng, Shui Ruohua looked back knowing what he planned with tears in her eyes. Chu Qingcheng saw Zhuo Fan's determination and gnashed her teeth. She pulled Shui Ruohua and Danner as she flew faster. Shui Ruohua cried, Qingcheng, are you really leaving him? He's going against 500 ethereal stage experts and a soul harmony expert. I don't want to, but I have to. Chu Qingcheng's eyes were red. I'm too weak and will only burden him. It's better to leave first and escape from their chase. Then he can find his own way to escape. I believe that even in this dangerous situation, he can still come out alive. Chu Qingcheng might have spoken to the girls or maybe to herself, to give her belief and to trust Zhuo Fan, but she knew deep inside that the universal righteous sect's force could wipe out a lower 3 sect. Zhuo Fan's chances were slim at best. The girls could only pray for him. Chu Qingcheng held the other two with shaky hands as she flew, biting her lip till it bled. Shui Ruohua saw her pain and tightened her grip on Chu Qingcheng's hand. Don't worry, he'll be fine. Yeah, Brother Zhuo always comes out alive. He got the strength and the wits. Danner consoled. Chu Qingcheng lowered her head as she kept flying. She really hoped that was true, but only she knew Zhuo Fan saying for them to not look back was the same as saying goodbye. Chapter 774, Paper Tiger. Chapter 774, Paper Tiger. Proofreader, Papatonks. When people separate, they still hope to see each other one last time. So why did I tell her to not look back to see her again? Hovering and watching the girls vanish in the distance, Zhuo Fan's eyes grew hazy. Maybe I don't want her to see me crying. Ha ha ha. Whoosh. A tremendous power came pressing down as a fierce gale fluttered his clothes. Zhao Dazhu came in front and cackled at his back. Ha ha. Weren't you running? Even if you broke the array, you think you could escape my 500 ethereal stage experts? In the end, you just didn't want to die like that. Closing his eyes, Zhuo Fan forced the mist away from his eyes as he spat. Since I can't escape, fighting is better. You really went all out, using 500 against me. He. What other way is there when dealing with a freak like you? We had to make sure a demon like you would never escape. Zhao Dazhu mocked and glanced at 24 men on the side. Go after the girls. The rest of you deal with the demon. Yes, sir. The 24 cupped their hands and were about to go after them, but just as they got to Zhuo Fan, a boom echoed out with a flash of scarlet and mournful cries. The 24 experts were thrown back, Battered and bloody, they all looked startled to see Zhuo Fan had before him a scarlet dragon hundreds of meters big blocking their way. It opened its bloody maw, looking at its prey with a savage glint in its eyes. As it unleashed its mighty power, Zhao Dezhu snorted, "Almighty Scarlet Dragon King? Humph, Zhuo Fan, you're taking your soul out so soon? You want to go all out? Those girls must be dear to you." "Just some ignorant lasses, that's all." Zhuo Fan spoke heavily. "Zhao Dezhu, you're only after my head. Well, here I am. Don't go dragging innocents into this." Zhao Dezhu smirked. "Innocent? Ha ha ha. There's no such thing when they're involved with you. The universal righteous sect purges demons to the last one. Those girls will be snuffed out sooner or later." Boom. He did not finish as a fierce whirlwind lashed at them. The almighty Scarlet Dragon King's tail swipe completely blocked the way forward. Zhuo Fan turned around, his eyes filled with bloodlust. "No one will get past me for as long as I breathe." "Humph, show off." Zhao Dezhu mocked. "You still want to stop my 500 experts? See how I cross your line. I won't kill you, but bring back the girls and rip them apart before your eyes. You'll see what awaits all that hang around a demon like you." Ha ha ha. Laughing, Zhao Dezhu flicked his hand again and 30 ethereal stage experts revealed their souls to attack. Blades, spears, axes, all kinds of souls were put on display and unleashing their raw power as they came upon Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan made the almighty Scarlet Dragon King swipe its tail at them. Boom. The loud explosions resounded and smoke rose. The power of those clashes made the rest of the ethereal stage experts to back away. When it cleared up, 20 Universal Righteous Sect ethereal stage experts were now on the ground, bleeding from everywhere, while the last 10 were gasping and bleeding from their mouths, while before them was a wounded and battered Scarlet Dragon. But it stood in place, not making a single movement. The 30 ethereal stage experts' soul attack could still not budge the huge dragon. Zhuo Fan looked at them coldly with an ashen face. He quivered and spat blood, but he remained firm, like he was still fine, giving Zhao Dezhu a look of utter contempt. "Monster." That was what their looks said, looking at Zhuo Fan in disbelief. One man taking 30 experts' attacks, yet still managing to heavily wound 20 while pushing back the rest had already gone beyond the means of a simple human. His power was unheard of. He really was the best in Double Dragon, gathering to take down all the superior 3 sections. When Zhao Dezhu came back, they wouldn't believe it. But now, truth stared them right in the face. They all gasped and whispered from shock and awe. Zhao Dezhu was pissed off. He clenched his fists. He didn't come here to bolster his fame with new fans, but bury him for good. But now, these fools were oblivious of the situation. How can they admire this vile demon spawn? That's enough. Remember your place as righteous cultivators. Zhao Dezhu barked as he pointed at Zhao Dezhu. "All of you attack. Get me his head, for Providence." Everyone startled awake and went for Zhuo Fan as they unleashed their power. Devoid of fear, Zhuo Fan grinned. "Yes, come take my head. You must do it, for Providence. But it's also Providence who dictates how many of you actually come out alive out of this. Look at the 20 heavily wounded. They were no less brave than you yet. What did they get? At the end of the day, only the survivors get to enjoy the victory. You'd better think this through. Do you want to be expendable or a winner? You decide." Ugh. They all faltered, coming to a halt. As they looked like each other, no one seemed to be so keen on being first anymore. "Brother, you take the lead. I'll watch your back." "And end up dead? You do it." Humph. With but a casual reminder from Zhuo Fan, their inner self-preservation was brought to the surface before they realized it. They had lost all the courage and panicked now. No matter how many they are, once their hearts were shaken, they became nothing more than a rabble. Their numbers meant nothing. Zhuo Fan grinned in disdain, seeing them being so petty. At the same time, he held his stomach as blood kept flowing from his mouth. He was wounded gravely as well. If they came at him again, just a dozen would have been enough to finish him, but by driving a wedge between them and bringing out their selfishness, the paper tiger that was now Zhuo Fan stalled these hundreds of experts from coming over. Anyone would laugh at such a scene. The great force of a sect was reduced to bickering fools, unable to get their hands on a wounded guy. Zhao Dezhu was stomping in anger, cursing, "You damn morons! What are you scared of? He's hanging by a thread. Attack?" Get me his head, and I'll make sect leader commend you. Then why don't you go? However, it had the opposite effect. One universal righteous sect disciple gave him a glare. Ugh. Startled, Zhao Dezhu stammered, me? Zhou Fan was filled with deceit and endless trickery. Even if wounded, no one really knew what scheme he was hiding. And you want me to go there? When he had toyed with Yi Lin to such an extent. If I go there, keeping my life will be a miracle. Why the hell would I go? I'm too young to die. What did I bring you all for then if not to get him instead? However, seeing him scared, they were even more so. Now no one was willing to attack thus. The 500 experts of Universal Righteous Sect stared like fools at a wounded guy. Zhao Dezhu was outraged while Zhou Fan grinned. He wasn't after escaping though. While defeating 500 of them was impossible, he only hoped that by fighting them he bought the girls enough time. Zhou Fan felt his insides burning as blood got caught in his chest and made it hard to breathe. Even so, he still stood there, pretending like he was fine. Clap. Someone clapped. Ha ha ha. Even though a wounded paper tiger, you still managed to shake the resolve of 500 Universal Righteous Sect experts. No wonder Zhao Dezhu said you'll be the righteous path's biggest calamity. Chapter 775. None shall pass. Chapter 775. None shall pass. Proofreader. Papatonks. Frowning, Zhou Fan turned his head back as he felt his heart sinking not far from him. A thin, middle-aged man in white clothes came out from the trees. Seeing his mild smile but sharp eyes, Zhou Fan knew this guy was anything but nice. What was more, he was also a soul harmony expert. Squinting, Zhou Fan thought to himself, it seems Universal Righteous Sect's expert they got is ready to strike. Following his thoughts, 7 lights flashed as more soul harmony stage cultivators showed up beside him, including the silver-haired old man he saw in the town. Such a display of force left Zhou Fan sighing. I could scare off 500 ethereal stage experts, but I have no chance against 8 soul harmony experts. Glancing at the 8, he began to calculate how to block them from going after Chu Qingqing at this time. Zhou Fan had no care for his life at all. All he wanted now was to stall for as much as possible. Zhao Dezhu greets the elders. Seeing the 8 people, the pissed and stuck Zhao Dezhu finally found his thick leg to hug. The other ethereal stage experts calmed down as well, ignoring them. The silver-haired old man frowned, staring at Zhou Fan and at the powerful dragon soul. There's so many of you, yet you couldn't even get rid of a brat after so long? I thought that when I'd come everything would be settled by now. But look at this mess. You have shamed the Universal Righteous Sect. Everyone's heart chilled and they lowered their heads, but weren't there 4 of them? Why is there only 1? Where are the girls? At least show me their bodies. The silver-haired old man asked. Zhao Dezhu beamed with a deep bow. Elder, the 3 girls had run away. This brat blocked us here. We were about to take him down and then follow after them. What? One man holding back 500? The silver-haired old man was outraged. Humph, good, very good. You really are pathetic. There are hundreds of you, yet you can't even handle 4 people, ending up stuck dealing with just 1. Do you want me to step in? Is that it? To pick on the weak? If word gets out, the Universal Righteous Sect will have no name left. Ha ha ha. Zhao Dezhu, you petitioned the sect for so many people to help you. I thought you were dependable, but now I see you're nothing. You can't even take 4 people down with so many on your side? Would you like 500 more to get the job done? Zhao Dezhu jerked back after being harangued. He went red from shame and unwillingness. Elder, this isn't about numbers, but how devious this brat is. Using his devil's tongue to incite chaos, turning all these people into a rabble. It doesn't matter even if they were 1,000, they'd still end up the same. The more they are, the more chaos it'll be. Moreover, it's not exactly all our fault. Didn't I ask you to cut their escape now? Zhao Dezhu gave the contented elder in white a careful look, but did not dare to speak up. The silver-haired old man followed his gaze and asked in a dark tone, Elder by he, we've discussed this before, that we would work together in cutting off every chance of escape. Why didn't you step in when the girls fled? Ha ha ha, how's it my fault? The elder chuckled and mocked. Elder Ren Xiaoyun, you were waiting together with me, yet always wanted to make a move and get them. So I figured that with a soul harmony expert and 500 ethereal stage experts, getting 4 brats still in the radiant stage would be a piece of cake. That's why my intervention would be pointless, just wandering around here on a leisure stroll. But whoever thought you'd let them freaking escape, humph, and after I came back, I found it even more ridiculous how 500 experts were being stopped by 1 brat. Ha ha ha, that's the biggest joke I've heard. Elder Ren Xiaoyun, that happened with your help even. Does that mean that all these disciples would be wiped out if it weren't for you? I now have a new understanding of your strength. From elder to executive to disciple, not one is worth anything. Elder Ren Xiaoyun's face twitched and went red, then he glared at Zhao Dazhu, wishing he could pulverize him. Seeing how the 4 ran away and Zhao Dazhu led the 500 experts after them, he figured winning was in the bag. That was why he took his sweet time coming here rather than getting it over with fast, scared they would talk behind his back that he picked on someone weaker than him. Even if it was for the sect, it still hurt to hear it, but who knew that Zhao Dazhu would be such a moron to not even complete this simple task, even getting the elders involved and shaming them with this shameless act. If not for this brat being sect leader's disciple and the future pillar of the sect, he would have died on the spot gasping. Elder Ren Xiaoyun's eyes flashed. Zhao Dazhu did not dare to look at him, lowering his head. He cursed Zhuo Fan to high heavens. If not for this punk, I wouldn't have made a fool of myself before the elders. The other could see Elder Ren Xiaoyun was furious and smiled, giving him a way out. Elder Ren Xiaoyun, the girls shouldn't have gone far. It should be easy to catch up to them. Zhao Dazhu has his faults, but it won't matter. You're an important man and should be letting him remember this mistake. After we settle this, we'll handle it back at the sect. With his rear kissed, Elder Ren Xiaoyun nodded. The 8 looked at each other, then passed Zhuo Fan together, totally ignoring him. Zhao Dazhu, we'll leave this to you. If you still can't do it with so many men, humph. Elder Ren Xiaoyun warned. Zhao Dazhu bobbed his head. Elder Bai smiled. Children, don't let his words confuse you. If you manage to kill him, you'll all earn merit. If you let him escape, you'll all die. Yes, sir. Everyone shouted. An elder's order was different from Zhao Dazhu's, a disciple. He easily stirred these ethereal stage experts' fighting spirit. The elders nodded, then passed Zhuo Fan without minding him. They didn't feel quite right by killing him themselves. They still had their name as righteous cultivators to keep. It was better to let them settle it. As for the girls, they had good use for them. Those constitutions should not go to waste. Boom. However, they did not get far, as an incoming explosion of power sent their clothes fluttering from almighty Scarlet Dragon King's tail. I told you, as long as I'm here, none shall pass me. Zhuo Fan spoke coldly. The 8 elders looked at him with anger and shock because they did not care about an ethereal stage expert at all. Zhao Dazhu mocked. Ha ha ha, Zhuo Fan, you ignorant fool. You actually want to try and stop the 8 elders? Do you know the difference between soul harmony stage and ethereal stage? Yeah, we don't want to waste time on a pup. We have our status to maintain. So don't push it. Elder Bai sneered. And besides, you're not worthy. Zhuo Fan had a sinister grin. Oh, since you don't want to attack, then just sit there, all right? The 8 elders' faces fell. Elder Ren Xiaoyun gave Zhuo Fan a long look and took a deep breath. Fine. Since this evil spawn wants to die at soul harmony expert's hand, then I'll oblige you. Elder Ren Xiaoyun suddenly shook and an incredible power came from him. The sudden surge forced the ethereal stage experts to falter back from the 100-meter huge hammer forming behind the elder. Humph. My soul is a tool soul, heaven-smashing hammer. Its might is unprecedented. Hum. The huge hammer then combined with his body, making his body swell and releasing silver light. The mere clasping of his fists sent powerful ripples. After achieving harmony, my body is like a diamond. My punch crushes mountains. Even your heaven dragon soul will be turned to dust. With a creepy glint in his eyes, Elder Ren Xiaoyun grinned. If you had fought these ethereal stage experts, you might have lived longer. But since you want to die, humph, then be my guest. Elder Ren Xiaoyun shot straight for Zhuo Fan. The relentless fists smashed into his chest, brutal and savage. Chapter 776, Demon Sword's Power. Chapter 776, Demon Sword's Power. Proofreader, Papatonks. Ha ha ha, Zhuo Fan, You've angered our soul harmony stage elders. You must really want to die. Zhao Dezhu pointed at Zhuo Fan's cold face and laughed at his suicidal act. Elder Bai he shook his head in mockery. We're not picking on the weak this time. It's the weak who taunts us. Yeah, he must think that dying at a soul harmony expert's hand would be so much more honorable. Another elder shook his head, looking with contempt. There's plenty of idiots like him around, as if the more incredible the death, the better the glory, ha ha ha. But that doesn't mean you should die at some underling's hand. After all, even experts sometimes can't help but squash a few bugs. Everyone nodded and snickered. The hundreds of ethereal stage experts were even excited. They were going to see their glorious elders attack. Who? The wind brought terrible power at Zhuo Fan, pushing him down and making him pant and shake. Despite that, he stood firm, his back straight. As he took Almighty Scarlet Dragon King back into himself, Elder Ren Xiaoyun raised an eyebrow, writing it off as fear and laughing at Zhuo Fan for it. You took your soul back? You think it'll save you? I am a soul harmony expert. This fist will crush your body and pulverize your soul. You can't escape. Haha, you're wrong about that. I took it back not out of fear, but to reduce the defensive range. Zhuo Fan smirked. Elder Ren Xiaoyun had to laugh harder at that. Defensive range? Haha, do you really think you can block my punch? Even with a 9th grade spiritual armor, you'd still die. Elder Ren Xiaoyun put more speed into his strike, arriving at Zhuo Fan in an instant. The terrible power was so great it made Zhuo Fan's face split. Bleeding all over, his soul was restless, as if afraid of this might. Of this punch, Zhao Dezhu was having the time of his life. In the Double Dragon Gathering, his name became nothing, and now it became nothing in front of the elders. But the freak Zhuo Fan would finally die. The other ethereal stage experts were shouting in excitement. The 7 other elders shook their heads. With how deep the gap is, this fight is boring. It was like a thug looming on a 3-year-old. Just when everyone thought this would be over, Zhuo Fan's fate changed. A bloody glow with traces of black came in contact with Elder Ren Xiaoyun. The elder's punch was just about to hit Zhuo Fan, but then it split in two, whistling right by Zhuo Fan's ears as traces of blood landed on his brow. Elder Ren Xiaoyun was dumbstruck. But then, a chuckle grated in his ears. Ha ha ha. Did you really think I would lower the defensive range just to block your attack? Zhuo Fan showed a sinister smile, his eyes flashing coldly. I was only getting ready to hack you. Elder Ren Xiaoyun shook, at a loss. But then he quickly shivered. He looked down to look at himself. He was bisected in 2 halves, with blood dripping from his innards. Because he had attacked, the halves simply went past Zhuo Fan. Now he looked at Zhuo Fan in the eye. He had no determination to try and take them down with him. He was actually ready to kill a soul harmony expert, though the elder didn't understand how it came to dying like this. Elder Ren Xiaoyun wanted to at least know what happened before dying, but time waited for no one. As he turned around, his eyes went blank and he splattered to the ground, dying with a grievance. The shock was so great everyone was in denial of what they saw. The ethereal stage experts and the elders all gasped, watching the bloody halves. That's a soul harmony expert. How can he die just like that? Clang! A sword having a bloody glow and black veins on it circled the air and flew in Zhuo Fan's hand with a cheerful hum, like it was excited of the kill it just took. The hungry hum echoed and made the rest shiver from fear. That sword? Elder Bai he and the 6 elders shared a glance. This was supposed to be a simple task now that the 8 of them came to deal with some brats. They came just to make sure all went well, but not that they would actually intervene. But none could have fathomed that they would actually lose a soul harmony expert, just like that, at the hands of a weapon. The hearts of the other elders were tense, no longer looking down on the kid. Zhao Dezhu was scared to death and stumbled backward. No, that can't be. How did you kill a soul harmony stage elder? Humph, I told you. None shall take one step beyond me. Ignoring him, Zhuo Fan flicked the sword and smiled coldly. He was like a supreme monarch, bearing down his mighty order. The elders did not care about him before, but they would not be so hasty this time around. That weird sword would sure promise them death otherwise. What the hell is that thing? Elder Bai he squinted as sweat trickled down. The others were the same, stepping back from that sword in an instant. The 2 sides were in a deadlock. The ethereal stage experts had a morale boost with the 8 elders, about to attack even. But then one of them had to die and shake the elders' resolve, making them useless. Their morale hit rock bottom, looking at Zhuo Fan with dread. If their elders feared him, how couldn't they? Zhuo Fan grinned and nodded at the sword. 6th grade sacred weapon, Atlas sword. He was lacking in using the sacred weapon's full power, but it was sharp enough to kill a soul harmony expert. Thanks to this trinket, he could now stall for longer and make sure Chu Qingqing got away Zhuo Fan's side. Yet he was showing a pleased smile. This might be the last time he could help Qingqing. Use your weapons. Elder Bai, he shouted. Then he charged for Zhuo Fan while a broadsword appeared in his hands. 9th grade spiritual weapon, Heaven Slasher. Moon-cutting river. The other 6 elders lit up. Since the demon sword was amazing, then they'd use spiritual weapons. Even if they lacked, they could press on with their soul harmony stage power, and so they all took out their spiritual weapons and came at Zhuo Fan squinting. Zhuo Fan knew he could not let them circle him. So his right eye flashed golden once and was gone from their sight. Divine Eye of the Void's first stage. Shift. Whoosh. Zhuo Fan's vanishing act had the spiritual weapons strike air. The next second, he was behind Elder Bai He. Slashing Elder Bai He's heart shook and he dodged that sharp edge. With a flick of his hand, the Heaven Slasher carried out his entire power as it hacked at Zhuo Fan. Bam! A loud sound echoed as the blade and sword collided. Zhuo Fan shook from the soul harmony stage power seeping into his body. He spat blood and fell back. However, Elder Bai He's Heaven Slasher fell apart, pieces crumbling from it. A 9th grade spiritual weapon was ruined just like that. This can't be. Elder Bai He widened his eyes in shock. What kind of weapon is that? How can a Radiant Stage kid destroy a 9th grade spiritual weapon in the hands of a soul harmony expert? The other's eyelids quivered, thoroughly stumped. Chapter 777. Never Surrender. Chapter 777. Never Surrender. Proofreader. Papatonks. While spiritual weapons had grades, that didn't mean anyone could use them. Their power was also different. A 3rd grade spiritual weapon wielded by a soul harmony expert was much stronger than a Radiant Stage expert holding a 9th grade spiritual weapon, but that did not seem to be the case since even with the cultivation gap, a soul harmony stage expert was using spiritual weapons against a Radiant Stage expert. If not for Zhuo Fan's sword being so outrageous, they would not have resorted to such a shameless act as using spiritual weapons to pick on the weak. Yet even so, their spiritual weapons were as useful as toothpicks. It only helped taking one blow. This had them shaken. Just what was that thing Zhuo Fan was holding for even 9th grade spiritual weapons to be solely lacking? They began to take this fight more seriously in terms of strength. Zhuo Fan was clearly weaker, as weak as a lamb in fact. But that sword turned the lamb into a wolf with a ravenous appetite. These almighty elders of the universal righteous sect were scared. Elder Bai He glared with such fury at Zhao Dazhu. What the hell is wrong with you? How could you miss telling us he has such a godly weapon? Elder Bai He, I didn't know. Zhao Dazhu felt wronged, then stared daggers at Zhuo Fan. Just how much is he hiding? Why didn't he take it out when he fought Yilin? How was he supposed to know this sword, no matter how incredible, had to be kept hidden? He could not just flaunt it and end up dead as a result, just like these elders. While clueless of being Western Land's guardian treasure, they all felt greed to possess such a mighty bauble. If it was so awesome in Zhuo Fan's hand, then what about in a soul harmony expert's? They all started attacking Zhuo Fan. Their spiritual weapons fell down like rain. At the same time, they also unleashed techniques to cover all bases. Zhuo Fan could defend against one attack, but not both. And when he died, they could finally steal that sword. Zhuo Fan squinted. He saw through them and grinned. His right eye flashed golden once more. Divine Eye of the Void's first stage. Shift. Zhuo Fan vanished and reappeared before Elder Bai He, who didn't have a spiritual weapon. Bai He was stunned and dodged as he cursed, for crying out loud. Stop coming at me. You already ruined my spiritual weapon, and now you come to finish the job? If you have the nerve, leave the sword and fight me like a man. Elder Bai He fled with Zhuo Fan on his tail. The surrounding ethereal stage experts were dumbstruck. A Radiant Stage cultivator was chasing a soul harmony stage 1. Talk about baffling. This was unheard of. Elder Bai He's heart collapsed in hatred. But that was it. A soul harmony stage's soul and body combination was tough, but was no different from paper before that sword. How humiliating, being chased around before such a crowd by a damn brat. Though it was much better than getting killed, so he ran with Zhuofan behind him. The only thing missing was a cry for help. Elder by he. Here I come to help you. Another elder shouted and lifted his spear as he charged Zhuofan at the same time. He also combined his soul with his body, while punching at Zhuofan. This was using two different attacks. Zhuofan had no way of keeping the pursuit of his quarry. As for shifting again, Zhuofan frowned as the other elders were now on guard at his every move. No matter how he tried to ambush them again, they were ready. He could only fight with a creepy glint in his eyes. Zhuofan flicked his sword and threw it at the spear, then his arm flashed red as he punched the incoming attack. The elder was overjoyed. Ha ha ha. No matter how strong you are, my fist is backed by my soul. You can't escape. Ha ha ha. I know that, Zhuofan grinned and his eye flashed golden. So I'm smashing your spiritual weapon. The other was stunned to see that he and the Atlas sword switched places. Bam. Zhuofan's punch struck the spear, making him fly back and cough blood, while the elder's fist was now faced a demonic sword, sending terror through his bones. Whoosh! With a mournful cry, another soul harmony stage elder met his demise. His body fell in a pool of blood, and the sword came back to Zhuofan's hand. Panting, Zhuofan wiped his bloody mouth and showed a crazed grin. That's two. SSS. The others were gasping in fright. The 6 elders looked at Zhuofan like he was a monster, their fists shaking. In just a short time, 2 elders were gone. This kid's tricks are twisted. Everyone attack. Elder by he gnashed his teeth. The punk is using every gap in our attacks to pick us one by one. With his sword and those creepy skills, even we might end up dead by his blade. The others shook and nodded after a short moment. It looks like we'll have to lower ourselves. The kid is worthy of us doing this. Elder by he looked around, then set his eyes on Zhao Dazhu. Take 100 men and go after the girls. The rest of you attack the vile spawn together. Yes, sir. They all shouted, even Zhao Dazhu. Zhao Dazhu. I hope you'll be alive when I come back with those girls. Haha. Zhao Dazhu then took his men to pass Zhuofan. Boom. However, an explosion came as a huge scarlet dragon once again appeared before them as Zhuofan spoke deadly. I told you, none shall. Bam! He did not finish as his body shook and coughed blood. He saw that a soul harmony stage elder appeared before the dragon and punched it. Almighty Scarlet Dragon King's hard scales crumbled to pieces as it howled. Ha ha ha. The dragon soul is finally out. Elder by he gave a devious smile. You took your soul back to have an easier time with Eldering Shui and not expose your weakness. However, you want to stop them, so you have to take it out again, exposing it before a soul harmony expert. It seems to me those girls are very important to you, more than your life. Zhuofan's eyes shook. Even with the blood flowing from his mouth and his woozy body, he still stood his ground. Elder by his side. There's no point. With another punch, your dragon soul will crumble. Your sword is amazing, but it can't stop everything. Ha ha, yes, you have a choice now. Give up your life, or let us pass and get the girls. Zhao Dazhu laughed, though I hope you'll pick the latter. If you don't take your soul back, the next punch will kill you and won't be able to save those girls. But if you take it back, won't you see the girls again soon? Ha ha ha, well, what will you choose? Zhao Dazhu was having a kick out of Zhuofan's plight. Mocking him for it, Zhuofan had a vile grin, his eyes still firm. I told you, none shall pass me. Die then. Zhao Dazhu shouted. Then he turned to the elder before the dragon. Elder, if you would. The man showed a bloodthirsty glint and punched into the dragon's back just then. What shocked everyone was that when the punch landed, everything was quiet then. With a cry, the dragon turned pitch black, oozing black energy as it engulfed him. Chapter 778, Chopping Galore. Chapter 778, Chopping Galore. Proofreader, Papatonks. What? The soul changed. The elder who punched the black dragon gasped and could not get away from it. Zhao Dazhu cried out. That's Zhuofan's dragon soul variant, heaven-devouring demonic dragon king. Correct? Zhuofan snickered then spewed blood. Heaven-devouring demonic dragon king can take on any power for itself. Even if a soul harmony expert punched, it would lose most of its power. You want to smash me? Humph, think again. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed with bloodlust and his right eye shone golden. As the demonic sword vanished again, it came back from the front of the elder. The elder was scared to death and panicked. But nothing he did could get his fist out of the heaven-devouring demonic Dragon King's black energy in the end. Another wail adorned the sky as the demonic blade robbed him of his life by cutting him in two. Blood fell down like rain as the creepy demonic sword returned to Zhuo Fan's hands. It shone a blood-red light that reflected in the other's eyes. Moreover, trapped in heaven-devouring demonic Dragon King. You won't get out so easily, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan's laughter pierced their ears, making everyone shiver. The remaining 5 elders felt fear now, with sweat gathering on their brows. That was the third one. If they didn't see it, they wouldn't have believed it. A great soul harmony expert actually died at the hands of a kid not yet in the ethereal stage. And not just one. The blade was just too strange and savage. Not even a soul harmony expert with his soul and body united could handle it. But what else did the kid have beside the sword? Nothing else he used could threaten them. Even so, they understood fully that sword's power and were on high alert. Even as they all were cautious to dodge its edge, they still fell one by one. This was no longer an issue with the sword, but with Zhuo Fan. He was a threat to everyone. The tragic deaths of 3 of them had the elders admit that they were up against a dangerous enemy. It wasn't just the sword, but the wielder as well. Elder Bai He squinted and shouted, "Everyone attack. No matter what it costs, we have to take the vile spawn's head. We'll go after the girls after we have his corpse." Elder Bai He, his sword is too strong. Our losses will be heavy. One elder spoke. Shaken Elder Bai He shook his head and gnashed his teeth. We don't have a choice. The kid is too weird. If we try anything else, we won't win. The best method is to drown him with numbers, to use superior strength on the weak. When he's so busy fending us all off, he'll die for sure. But, no buts. Elder Bai He cut him off with a flick of his hand. We'll only leave 100 ethereal stage experts anyway. The universal righteous sect can take it. Elder Bai He led the charge, but did not dare to face Zhuo Fan head-on, going for the dragon soul instead. Those with spiritual weapons attack his body. The rest go for his soul. Yes, sir. Seeing an elder beginning the assault, the rest shouted and took out their souls. The remaining 4 elders saw this and nodded. They gripped their spiritual weapons and went for Zhuo Fan. As they unleashed their mighty power, it was like 2 mountains came crumbling down. One went for Zhuo Fan and the other for the dragon soul. No matter which struck home, he would die either way. However, he could not dodge because behind him were the girls. Ha ha, Zhuo Fan, you want to use yourself to shield the girls? Then I'll walk all over your corpse and grab them. Zhao Dezhu followed Bai He closely as he shouted, see how in 15 minutes you'll end up dead and ruined. And with your fall, those girls will be next. All you've done would be for nothing. You can't save anyone. Zhuo Fan's brow shook. He looked rather frail, but his eyes held a vague glint. Oh really? Thanks for the reminder. It seems I'll survive a while longer at least. Showing a devilish smile, Zhuo Fan made a sign soul variant, vaulting Dragon King. Whoosh! The demonic dragon withdrew its black energy and azure flames began to cover its body. Elder Bai He jerked, but before he could react, the azure dragon opened its maw to unleash a torrent of azure flame at the hundreds of souls around. Wails and cries were heard all around as the wave of souls had not even reached the dragon soul, and they were burning in an azure inferno. Their bodies jerked and twitched from pain. The unlucky ones, unable to withdraw, had been burned down to nothing in a blink. Dozens of ethereal stage experts were gone from this world. Everyone gasped from shock. Even Zhao Dezhu didn't think that the azure dragon that had been passive in Yilin's fight would unleash such power. It killed so many and heavily wounded 100. How could any of them know the chaos azure flame might be a gentle flame, weaker in a fight than a fierce flame, like decimating golden flame? It still came from a sacred beast. It was only weaker in relation to that golden dragon. If you thought azure dragon was weak because of that, then what happened now was only natural. Elder Bai He glared at Zhao Dezhu, as if blaming him. Why couldn't you report his strength sooner? How was Zhao Dezhu to know? He was only watching the fight, not participating in it. He only knew that Almighty Scarlet Dragon King was tough while the others were always on defense. Zhao Dazhu felt like crying now he knew just how bitter Yi Lin and Zhuo Fan's fight was. Their fight was beyond their stage. Something the audience could not comprehend. The brat still had some more damn skills? Tell me everything you know already. Elder Bai He gnashed his teeth and barked. Zhao Dazhu shook his head, his eyes hazy. There shouldn't be any great moves left. Although he has another variant, a purple dragon. But that is used for ambushes, and it's weak. Rumble. As if on cue, purple lightning flashed in waves and crossed the Inferno to strike at the hundreds of souls. Dozens of more souls fell right then and dozens more withdrew with heavy wounds. Is this what you mean by a weak variant? Elder Bai's face twitched and wanted to slap the kid into the hereafter. Zhao Dazhu lowered his head, puzzled on the inside. Why did Zhuo Fan look so weak when fighting Yi Lin in the Double Dragon Gathering? How is he so strong now? Never mind. I won't ask you who knows nothing. I'll break his dragon soul myself. Elder Bai He flicked his sleeve and raged, shooting for the dragon soul with the power of Soul Harmony stage. He easily broke the purple lightning and the azure inferno. Elder Bai He, the purple dragon variant, has the weakest defense. I won't believe a word you say. Now get lost. Zhao Dazhu's reminder got a reprimand from Elder Bai He, making him jerk back and stay silent. To stew in anger. I was only trying to help. It's your fault if you die. At the same time, in front of Zhuo Fan, for elders wielding spiritual weapons came to take his life with their superior cultivation. Zhuo Fan clashed with them as he wielded the demonic sword. Elder Bai He arrived at the purple dragon and raised his fists but did not strike. Looking instead at Zhuo Fan, he saw Zhuo Fan's skill back then. That shift was insanely powerful now that he faced 4 experts at full power. If he went head-on, he would die even if the demonic sword ruined the spiritual weapons, as the power would transfer to him and kill him on the spot. But if he shifted away, that would be the best moment for Bai He to kill his soul, and in this he was afraid that he would get stuck like the other elder and end up dead. To make sure this didn't happen, Bai He stayed his hand, not wanting to give his enemy an opening to exploit. Even if Zhuo Fan got to him, he could instantly flee and draw him out while the 4 elders would focus on the dragon soul, so no matter the choice, Zhuo Fan would die for sure. Details made a plan come together, and Elder Bai He was a sharp man. That was why he chose to stay his hand, to see what Zhuo Fan would choose. Chapter 779, Chaotic Fight. Chapter 779, Chaotic Fight. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bam! Zhuo Fan's sword clashed with the 4 elders' spiritual weapons, turning them to pieces. Zhuo Fan had to cough blood from that encounter, their power wreaking havoc in his body. Elder Bai He laughed. This kid doesn't have the strength to move like that again? Of the 3 choices, he picked the quickest to die. Did he give up resisting? This is much better. His insides must be mush right about now, and can't use the sword again. Next, I'll just smash his dragon soul to pieces. Overjoyed, Elder Bai He's eyes shone and punched, sending all his power forward. The purple lightning struck the attack, but it did nothing to stop it. Boom! With a mighty sound, Elder Bai He grinned at the shaking dragon. This time you're going to fall, Heaven Dragon Soul. Whoosh! Black energy covered the dragon, switching from purple lighting as it roared. Ha ha ha! I see it now. At the critical moment you'll change to a demonic dragon to disperse my power? Elder Bai He mocked. So what? Even what remains will be enough to wound you. The only thing great about this dragon soul is that it can change forms and only drag out its death. But I will still kill you either way. Elder Bai He was about to strike again, but he found that he couldn't. His fist was stuck, just like that elder's sneering. Elder Bai He's body shook and unleashed more power to scatter the black energy as he pulled out his fist. Humph! Zhuo Fan, your body is already useless and can't use that instant movement. Your dragon can only stall for a couple of moments. Fighting your body might be a threat to us, but your soul alone can't be saved. Die. Elder Bai He. However, a cry came from the 4 elders. Looking over, he asked, What? Oh, our spiritual weapons aren't ruined. An elder held his spiritual weapon in shock as he shouted. Bai He jerked and looked careful to see that they were holding their weapons while Zhuo Fan was coughing blood in front of them. He was wobbling, yet the demonic sword had the same strong vibe. What just happened? If the four elders' spiritual weapons were not ruined, that meant they did not clash with the demonic sword. But why would Zhuo Fan get himself killed by doing this? To leave his soul alone? Elder Bai He was perplexed, however. A sudden wave of bloodlust came from behind. Startled, Bai He panicked and tried to dodge, only to find that his hand was still stuck in the black dragon, though it would only last for a couple of moments, more than enough to kill him. As blood spurted, Elder Bai He's body was severed. IV been had. Elder Bai He's lips trembled, forcing himself to turn around, to see Zhuo Fan's cold eyes and bloody mouth. What happened? Cough. Zhuo Fan kept coughing, though his face was flat. No matter how cautious you are, the moment you win, you'll feel invincible. I only gave you that moment, that's all. Elder Bai He looked at Zhuo Fan hovering in the air, then at the Zhuo Fan behind him with hazy eyes. Why are there two of him? Ha ha ha, ignorance is crime. You have no way of knowing all I'm capable of. Grinning, Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed in 3 golden halos. Divine Eye of the Void's 3rd stage, Mirage World. Whoosh. The one holding the demonic sword kept spewing blood, yet vanished the next second, leaving only the Zhuo Fan behind Bai He, grinning at the 4 remaining elders' illusion. Everyone understood that even if Zhuo Fan popped behind Elder Bai He still couldn't kill him even with the dragon soul holding him. He had to lure him first, but with the elders seeing his trick once, was he going to fall for it as well? So Zhuo Fan set up an illusion, letting Bai He think he faced them head-on and letting him attack the soul in peace. The illusion was easy to break, as the 4 elders found their spiritual weapons didn't crumble when meeting with the demonic sword, but Elder Bai He, who was not around, only saw that the plan worked and couldn't help but strike as well. At that moment, Zhuo Fan capitalized on the elder's mistake. Elder Bai He looked at the sky as his eyes became empty and he died. The 2 halves of his body fell to the ground, his eyes forever open in regret. Who'd have thought a great soul harmony expert would die with such regret? That's 4. Shaken to the core, the 4 remaining elders looked at Zhuo Fan panting heavily and spewing blood. Yet all they felt was fear as they backed away. He wasn't even in the ethereal stage, also wounded and surrounded, yet still killed a soul harmony expert. The first time was a miracle, the second was a mishap, but the third one had them all attacking to prevent any more from dying. Then the 4th kill came and proved he had the power. Still, the 4 elders felt their hearts sinking looking into those savage eyes. Who the hell is this guy? In the end, they were hardened cultivators of many years, soon recovering their calm after a bit of shock. They were soul harmony experts. How could a mere radiant stage prick kill 4 of them? Attack. All of you attack. No plans, just kill the damn kid no matter the cost. Finally, as 4 of them died, the elders went mad as they shouted, going for Zhuo Fan head-on. The remaining ethereal stage experts followed them. Zhao Daju was even in front, his eyes bloodshot. He had asked for this fight from the sect. Now 4 elders lay dead, and if he didn't get his head, he could never get back to the sect. Zhuo Fan looked at the flood of people charging over and tightened his grip on the demonic sword. He took a deep breath and gnashed his teeth as he charged as well with his weary body. This had never happened before in the history of time. Hundreds of experts ganged up on a lower cultivator. This was a bloody and thunderous chaotic battle. If the universal righteous sect had gone all out from the start, their losses wouldn't have been so great. But in this chaos, the death toll only rose. The ethereal stage experts unleashed their souls on Zhuo Fan without regard for their safety. Zhuo Fan's azure dragon spewed fire that killed many. The purple dragon sent purple lightning that singed even more, but the tide could not be stopped. Slamming into the dragon soul, Zhuo Fan spat blood again, his eyes going dark and about to fall unconscious. But he had someone to protect. He bit his tongue to wake up. The purple dragon shifted into the demonic dragon to absorb as much as possible of those soul attacks. Then it switched to Almighty Scarlet Dragon King, and with a lash of the whip, destroying dozens of more souls. This was how the dragon soul kept changing form to deal with the storm of souls coming to rob his life. He instead robbed their lives, bodies falling from the sky after giving out one last mournful cry under the constant attacks. The dragon soul was battered as well. Howling constantly, Zhuo Fan endured the pain his soul was suffering and charged head-on with the demonic sword in hand, his eyes bloodshot. Everywhere he went, Someone would fall to pieces. Another pile of bodies started hitting the ground. The four elders held their weapons and charged at his body. Zhuo Fan wielded the demonic sword and clashed with them 100 times, yet no winner was revealed. The demonic sword forced the elders to keep retreating after each attack. Its savage blade reaped dozens of ethereal stage experts with every swing. No one could approach their battle as each fought to gain the advantage. This had long stopped being a trap, becoming a bitter war. 500 people against one man. It was utter chaos. Chapter 780. You're not worthy. Chapter 780. You're not worthy. Proofreader. Papatonks. Where am I? The heavy night descended as a bloody man crawled out of the grass. The stench of blood around him made him cough, sometimes even vomit. The clear moon sent her soft rays, shining its light on this weary man's face-palming. Zhao Dezhu pondered before getting up. He was ordered by his sect to kill the demon Zhuo Fan, but he was just too strong, unable to get him even with superior numbers. That last tail swipe from the almighty Scarlet Dragon King killed so many, and since he was at the front, even if he survived it, only now did he wake up from the heavy blow. He was in the dark about whether that Zhuo Fan was finished or not. Zhao Dezhu looked at the moon above and sighed. It's already dark. He has to have fallen by now. But how many died? As if on cue, the world seemed to answer him as the moon shone on the limbs and bodies laying in bloody mud. Where he was right now was right in the middle of a river of blood. That many? Zhao Dezhu looked around in shock at the hellscape and gruesome display. At the limbs without a body to match, Zhao Dezhu shook and muttered, "What now? What now? I can't take the blame for these losses." Boom. However, his musing to weasel out were put on hold at the sound of that explosion and the incoming gale whipping his face. Startled, Zhao Dezhu rushed forward, flying towards the fire in the sky. The Universal Righteous Sect still had 100 ethereal stage experts gasping for breath and staring at their enemy with fear and shock. But what was more pronounced were the feelings of hatred and terror. In front of them stood 3 elders in dirty and ripped clothes, the spiritual weapons in their hands shaking. In no way. He's still alive? Zhao Dezhu's heart sank and flew over, squeezing between the men and getting in front. But the scene he saw left him shell-shocked. Before them was the same dragon. Although wretched and with broken scales, about to breathe its last, it still swiped its tail as it fought the crowd with utter determination. Just like Zhuo Fan, it was going to fight to the last breath. In front of it stood a man covered in blood, holding a demonic sword as blood dripped from his face. His eyes were welcoming death. His face was flat. The tens of ghastly wounds on his body kept spewing out blood. Some of the wounds even had dried blood on them. Despite all the pain and damage, he still stood. He stared at the men before him with a dead and firm look. An elder shifted his leg and shot forth. The sword pierced forward, but then he jerked back even faster, frowning. The elder looked at the others with fury. Is Zhuo Fan even human? We've ruined his body to this degree. His innards are crushed, but yet he still killed an elder. He had killed 400 ethereal stage experts and took down 5 soul harmony elders as well. He had paid for it, getting so many wounds on his body and soul. I just can't believe he's alive even after all that. Will he die only when his soul is ripped apart? This kid is too tough. Is he really in the radiant stage? Another elder panted, his whole body covered in blood as he stared at Zhuo Fan with bitterness. If we want to destroy his soul, I fear we'll all be annihilated. He might be on his last breath, but I know that his body is as tough as a zombie's. If we want to kill him, we'll have to pay the price. And to think this used to be an easy mission. Now look what came of it. The other 2 nodded. Yeah. What? As the trio discussed, a shout had them all startled. They saw Zhao Dezhu in shock as he wobbled over. Elders, what are you saying? We've lost so many? 5 soul harmony stage elders and 400 ethereal stage experts? The elders sighed and nodded, shaking all over. Zhao Dezhu turned around and looked outraged at Zhuo Fan, panting in the distance. Zhuo Fan, why aren't you dead yet? I personally asked for this mission from the sect. With so many dead, how am I to explain it? Zhao Dezhu's raving was unheard by Zhuo Fan. He just stood there with a cold gaze. 500 ethereal stage experts and 8 elders were sent yet, We can't even catch a radiant stage cultivator after a whole day of fighting? We even lost so many men and 5 elders. This outcome had finally sinked into Zhao Dazhu as he raved. Just what the hell are you? Why can't you just die? You just kept fighting the universal righteous sect's 500 experts to not overtake you for one day. You ruined my life. You ruined my future. Zhuofan just stood there in silence. The others reminded Zhao Dazhu, "Senior brother, we've been fighting for 3 days, not one." "What?" Zhao Dazhu's but hit the ground from the shock. "I've been out for 3 days? He's been holding on for 3 days?" The 3 elders flushed and lowered their heads in shame. So many men were fighting, yet they could not take one radiant stage cultivator down even after 3 days? Talk about a humiliation. The ever-silent Zhuofan finally let out a stiff voice. "Ha ha ha, I see. It's been 3 days. That means you won't catch them." With those words, Zhuofan collapsed, and the dragon soul closed its eyes and vanished. Only the sword entered Zhuofan and was gone. Startled, the men looked around stumped. Why did he suddenly collapse when no one did anything when he lasted 3 days of fighting? Zhao Dazhu was also startled. An elder came to Zhuofan and sighed. "I see. He's already dead." "He's dead?" Zhao Dazhu cried. "But he was still." The elder shook his head. "He was holding on that last breath to stop us from chasing the girls. With this last effort, he held us back for 3 days. In fact, his body must have died long ago, only his soul remaining. How strange. He is covered in deep wounds, each deadly, yet he could still stand. He must have died on his feet." Taking a deep breath, another elder stared at Zhuofan. When any other's body is destroyed, their soul would scatter. But he could drag out the last breath with his body up till now. Such willpower, even for a demonic cultivator, it's that of a hero. How freakish. He's an unheard-of monster. The third elder's eyes flashed, filled with bloodlust. Don't forget, he controlled his heavily wounded soul and this broken corpse to fight us for 3 days. No matter how heroic, how can one breath last him for so long? Who can control both the body and the soul? This thing would be too dangerous to be left alive. The 3 elders nodded and shouted, "Kill!" They all struck at once, holding nothing back even against his corpse. They were soul harmony experts, and their blows would sure wipe off every trace of his existence. However, a flash of golden slammed the trio away. When they stopped, they saw a youth in a golden cloak. "Yilin, what are you doing here?" Zhao Dazhu cried out, ignoring him. Yilin only looked at Zhuofan. Placing him on his shoulder, the elder shouted, "Put him down right now." "You want to kill him?" Yilin sneered as he looked at them with despise. "You're not worthy." Chapter 781, Inferno. Chapter 781, Inferno. Proofreader, Papatonks. Shaking all over, the 3 elders' expressions turned heavy. They might have not gone to Double Dragon Gathering, but they heard of him from Zhao Dazhu's report. Yilin, Double Dragon Gathering's runner-up. He fought with Zhuofan on the same level. Even being able to push Zhuofan back for a while, such an expert had to be on the same level as Zhuofan. Zhuofan alone was bad enough, reducing them to this state. But adding Yilin into the mix, and their hearts sank. However, they were not about to let Zhuofan, who was barely even alive, go. They had paid too much already, and if they did not achieve some manner of success, they would be too ashamed to return to the sect. So, one elder flicked his spiritual weapon and stepped forward as he urged, "Ultimate Clarity Sect is a righteous sect like the Universal Righteous Sect. Yilin, we have heard of your great name, the future of our righteous path. Why then would you have come to save a demonic cultivator whelp? If we don't get rid of him now, he will be a calamity upon the righteous sects, you included. I'm sure you don't want to be beneath another, to let Western Land's strongest man title fall in the hands of a vile demonic cultivator." He. Today, the Universal Righteous Sect stepped in to eliminate him, to purge demons and protect Western Land's righteous path. Just turn a blind eye and leave him here. You won't be reprimanded for it, being called cynical or jealous. You won't get your hands dirty, and you get famous as well. 2 birds with 1 stone. Shut your trap. The elder appealed to his devotion and on his practical side, thinking Yilin would surely agree since he'd be the biggest winner in this. However, The elder was rudely cut off. He stared at Yilin's dark look as the young man raged. A loss is a loss, a win is a win. I will never lower myself to these filthy schemes and stain my name as a sacred beast inheritor. Sacred beast inheritor? The others looked at each other puzzled. What's that? Humph. Nothing but a bunch of despicable dirtbags from the mortal domain. It's like talking to retards. Yilin mocked them, then looked at Zhuofan on his shoulder and sighed. This man might be the only one like me in the world. Yilin's hand shone golden and a fist-sized ball appeared. Releasing golden flames that burned hot, the others jerked back in fear. They did not know what that was, but it released a true power of destruction. They could feel it in their bones that it was terrifying. Not even the three elders could take it on. They gulped and sweated as they looked at it. Yilin. What is that? Zhao Dezhu shook backward. Finally working up his courage, Yilin snickered. The dead don't need to know. And who the hell would be on the same side with you? In this world, only one man is worthy. The rest are worthless. Yilin flicked his shoulder, and the golden ball shot into the crowd. Their instinct screamed at them to flee. Not that they could boom. In a huge explosion that scattered the clouds, even the earth cracked. The golden ball exploded in everyone's faces, unleashing its scorching flames everywhere. In a blink, an inferno was born. The fire burned high and warped the air as it did. On the verge of breaking space itself, Zhao Dezhu and his 100 experts, the three elders included, had no time to even cry out. Obliterated down to the last vestige, the inferno spread for 1,000 miles, burning everything and turning it into hell. Nothing living remained. Yilin looked coldly and then faded away from this place. Meanwhile, whoosh. In the dead of night, 3 girls fled, with the leading one showing signs of crying. Sister Qingqing, it's been 3 days. They shouldn't chase us now. Let's rest. Danner saw Chu Qingqing's weary look and proposed. Shui Ruohua nodded. Qingqing, in your sadness you gave all you had and are hurt. It's best we rest for now. Maybe Zhuofan would even catch up. No, Zhuofan is using his life so we can escape. How can we fail him? Closing her eyes, Chu Qingqing gnashed her teeth, her eyes tearing up again. We'll only stop when we get to Double Dragon Manor. Chu Qingqing's voice was firm. The girls shook their heads and sighed. Boom. A huge explosion came from far away, followed by towering flames. Such an intense heat spread everywhere as it scorched everything. The girls were flying yet could still feel the heat wave reaching them, pushing them into the ground. When they finally got up, they stood dumbstruck. The inferno reached the heavens, like a gateway to hell. Nothing alive was spared. Even though they were thousands of miles away, they could still feel its scorching heat lick their faces. Gods, what happened there? Where did this fire come from? Danner gasped and then cried out, Isn't that where Brother Zhua is? Danner! Shui Ruohua shouted and glared at her, startled. Danner noticed Chu Qingqing looked at the fire with a stunned look, her eyes shedding tears. Zhuofan. With a wail, Chu Qingqing flew onward, but Shui Ruohua stopped her. Qingqing, are you crazy? With such a raging fire, you'll die if you go. I don't care. Zhuofan. Chu Qingqing lost her calm, giving a mournful cry and struggling to go. Shui Ruohua steeled her heart and struck her neck, rendering her unconscious. Looking at Danner, the two sighed at the crying Chu Qingqing. They had never seen the always dignified girl be so frantic. She really cared for Zhuofan. Hard in pain, Danner pitied Chu Qingqing. Then she asked, Senior Sister Ruohua, what do we do now? What else can we do? Get Qingqing to Double Dragon Manor. Only there will we be safe. And Brother Zhua? Danner asked, looking back at the blaze. Shui Ruohua sighed. This inferno is not something we can handle. I hope he's all right. But Shui Ruohua shook her head and her eyes were filled with sorrow. Danner lowered her head, her eyes moist. She knew that under such devastating destruction, Zhuofan had no chance at all. The two took Chu Qingqing with a heavy heart and resumed their journey to Double Dragon Manor in Wingay City. Luo Clan, Zhuofan. Schwanger was sleeping when she suddenly jolted awake and shouting. Her eyes were shining like the clear, starry sky, her face a mask of fear. Creak. The door opened and Luo Yunhai with Luo Yunchang entered. Luo Yunchang sat next to her and asked, Schwanger, what happened? Why did you shout with all your strength? You have everyone scared. What exactly is going on? Sister Yunchang, Zijua Fan is dead. Schwanger's lips quivered as tears fell. Luo Yunhai shook in disbelief. Schwanger, what are you saying? He is married to Edifice Lord Chu and a sect leader. He should be happy right now, not? Luo Yunchang's eyes teared up, her heart frantic. I don't know. Schwanger shook her head. I just really saw how Zijua Fan fell in a pool of blood, then the golden flames. Clan head, Sister Schwanger is the holy maiden of the empire, peering into the workings of the world. Steward Zhua might be outside such machinations, but this premonition might not be unfounded. Leng Wuchang analyzed. It seems it has gone as I feared, and so quick at that. Luo Yunhai flicked his hand and shouted, Guard. Send a spy to the demon scheming sect to feel them out. Report back at once. Yes, sir. A shout came from beyond the door. Chapter 782, Ren Xiaoyun. Chapter 782, Ren Xiaoyun. Proofreader, Papatonks. Knock. In a dusky room, with few lights arranged, the face of High Venerable was reflected as he sat cross-legged. A heavy voice came from outside, breaking his peace. Who is it? Master, it's I. I came to pay my respects. A familiar voice spoke with respect. Elder Yuan spoke. Wu Yue, you haven't done it for centuries, so what made you pick the habit again? Ha ha ha, it's not so strange, Master. Xia Yue spoke. I have been a sect leader all this time, keeping with the sect's norms, and could not pay my master any respects. Now that I have stepped down and I'm free, I of course have to make up for all those years. Elder Yuan felt doubt inside, but softened in the end. Wanting to go back to those close times with his disciple, he lifted the seal on the door. Enter. The heavy stone door was pushed open, and Xia Wuyue stepped in with a smile. He kneeled and kowtowed 3 times. Master, I came to pay my respects. Like a good child, Xia Wuyue put on a genial face, nodding. Elder Yuan's eyes held a hint of sneer. Wuyue, you only came here for your own reason, not to pay me respects. Master, I would never. Humph, a master knows his student. You were never so honest. Elder Yuan sighed and waved. Say your piece. Xia Wuyue looked Elder Yuan in the eye as he chuckled. The older, the wiser, as they say. I can't hide anything from Master. Ha ha ha, Master. I have reflected deeply on your guidance a month ago and asked that Master gives me another chance. You still want to be a sect leader? Elder Yuan eyed him. Xia Wuyue nodded with a smile. Yes, a nation can't be without a king, and the same applies to a sect. Zhua Fan has gone to Double Dragon Manor just as he became sect leader, leaving the seat empty. If it was just a couple of days or so, it wouldn't matter, but he will be gone for decades. Not handling the matters a sect leader does will lead to the sect becoming a mess. Don't worry, there's also me. Moreover, there are venerables helping. Master, you're the High Venerable. Leading the sect's matters in the name of the sect leader will lead to bad rumors. If it drags out, some might say that High Venerable wants to break the sect's ancient rules, to take matters into your own hand and the seat. Who would spread such gossip? Elder Yuan looked squarely at Xia Wuyue. Xia Wuyue's head jerked back, lowering it as he bowed. I could never try to surmise what my master thinks, but others will surely prattle and ruin Master's name, especially those venerables who only scheme and fight each other. They may be agreeing with everything you say now, but when their power grow, they would take matters into their own hands. As a venerable, since you can handle the sect's affairs, why can't they? That's why there are ancient rules. Deposing and even fraternization is possible, but only a sect leader can lead, or it will affect people's hearts and invite disaster. Humph, who would scheme to exceed sect leader's authority? Elder Yuan stood up and flicked his sleeve as he shouted, I am an open man and only handle the matters of the sect in Zhua Fan's stead for the next years. When he returns, he will be taking up his duty as sect leader. Face twitching, Xia Wuyue's expression darkened. Master, you're too heartless. You'd rather wait on him than let me lead for these decades, rather than give me a chance? I promise that in these years, I will see to the public opinion. Once he's back, no one will follow him. Let all know that there's only one sect leader, Xia Wuyue. Wuyue, I see now you not once reflected on what I told you. With a saddened look, Elder Yuan shook his head. Public opinion is merely a method, while what matters is wisdom. That is what makes people follow you. Without it, you might catch their hearts in short term, but they would soon scatter later. When you understand the meaning of Tao, when you find your path, we'll then speak of the sect leader position. Taking a deep breath, Xie Wuyue's eyes went cold. Clutching his fists, Tao? Humph, master, you're only being vague. Who can understand such unreal things? You're only using it as an excuse to stop me from being a sect leader. Slowly turning away, Elder Yuan no longer looked at him. He sighed in disappointment. Master, you're casting me out. I am trying so hard here, but you? Xie Wuyue tensed, and his clenched fists crackled. Then a hint of bloodthirst appeared in his eyes. He made a claw with his hand and struck Elder Yuan's waist. High profound ranked martial art, Flood Dragon Claw. Whoosh! Xie Wuyue's dark claw arrived right before Elder Yuan. Elder Yuan was outraged. He never thought his disciple would have the nerve to strike his master down. Elder Yuan unleashed his power as well. His heavy power pressed on Xie Wuyue, stopping the claw in its track. Elder Yuan flicked his hand and grabbed his arm to throw him out. Bam! Xie Wuyue was slammed into the wall like a ragdoll before slumping to the ground. He coughed a lot of blood. Xie Wuyue, you're insane. I'm your master, yet you dare raise your hand? Clenching his fists, Elder Yuan's eyes were bloodshot from anger. Xie Wuyue gave a crazed, mocking smile. Master? You threw me off the sect leader seat, and you dare call yourself master? Elder Yuan's face shook, his heart overcome with grief. A green glow enveloped the dusky room. Xie Wuyue mocked. Impermanence 5. You finally came out. You make for poor bodyguards. What if I had hurt High Venerable? No one in the sect can surpass High Venerable in power. You can't hurt him. Our duty is only to prevent an ambush and disturb High Venerable's cultivation. Elder Shi's voice came from green glow. As your master and disciple, we should not interfere. But sect leader Xie, you need to understand, High Venerable had never mistreated you. He had handled the matter of the sect leader position perfectly. Or did you really think you'd be alive if Shuofan started a fight? Xie Wuyue wiped the blood from his mouth and nodded. You're right, and I know that. That's why I gave him one last chance to change his mind. Help me take my seat back while Shuofan was not here. However, he cast me out. It's not my fault here. Moreover, since I did not kill him with my strike, you can take it as repaying his favor for saving me. You've simply lost it. Xie Wuyue, you really think you could have harmed me? Elder Yuan shouted. Impermanence 5. Arrest Xie Wuyue. Yes, sir. The elders nodded and made a sign. The green glow flashed and sent green lights for Xie Wuyue, and around him with an evil glint in his eyes. Xie Wuyue mocked, not minding it at all. Ha ha ha. Lost it? Yuan Xingong, don't think you're the strongest in demon-scheming sect, that you're untouchable. I could have really killed you back then, but I didn't to break the ties between us. We don't owe each other anything now. Watch. Xie Wuyue shook his arm, and the storage ring on his hand flashed. A mighty power exploded from within and slammed into the vicissitude domain. Boom. The green glow shook, and the Impermanence 5 had no cough blood. Who did this? Elder Shi roared. A cackle entered their ears. Demon scheming sect's Impermanence 5 sure are something. You still breathe, and only your domain is broken despite suffering the might of a soul harmony stage. Whoosh! A gray figure of a middle-aged man appeared, tall and imposing before Elder Yuan. Elder Yuan gasped in shock. Heaven trailing sect leader, Ren Xiaoyun. Ha ha ha, it is indeed I. Ren Xiaoyun turned to Xie Wuyue's ring. It was a smart move to use the ring for an ambush. How did you came up with it, sect leader Xie? Xie Wuyue bowed slightly. I only learned it from a certain shameless traitor. I didn't think it would work to bring you so easily before High Venerable. High Venerable, now do you believe me? Xie Wuyue turned to Elder Yuan with a smile. If it wasn't me who struck you before, but sect leader ran from the ring, you would have died instead of preaching to me. Elder Yuan's beard shook as he gnashed his teeth. That's why I said I went easy on you for being your disciple. Ha ha ha, Xie Wuyue snickered.